This is our league, and this is your league. Broadcasting from the 55-yard line in Japan to the shores of the Great White North and everywhere around the world on Gridiron America Radio and the Sports History Network.
Not long ago, it was a marquee name with white shoes and a Fu Manchu mustache who came along and gave a fledgling new football league credibility and stability. And now a brand new football league searches for its identity. The World League of American Football. The United States takes its passion global, full of flavor and potential. Players and coaches are prepared for battle as we ready for the season premiere of the World League of American Football on ABC Sports.
Hey, greetings. Welcome to the 55-yard line, and it is Fran and I today. Unfortunately, Dave is buried under snow in Buffalo and busy digging out maybe a stadium or a runway. There's a lot of snow going on, going up where he's at. So, Dave, I know you're listening, so we both feel for you. Wish you were here. And Fran, how's it going, buddy?
Going well. I mean, I still have the remnants of that cold sore throat, but it's getting better each day. So maybe by next week it'll be hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, as everybody has heard, if they've gotten this far in the podcast, if you heard that intro theme, that's a throwback. That's a throwback from about 30 years ago of the old World League of American Football, and that's a topic that Fran and I are going to be talking about.
Both the USA and the or the ABC or just which ones did you throw in there?
I haven't decided yet at this point. I may do both because we are in the recording we are in the recording part. I have yet, obviously I'll be doing the editing part after we wrap up, but I don't know. You know what? Maybe both.
I mean, both are powerful. I mean, especially what the one was that was the opening, how the league launched the whole entire with Musburger, and then the other one was that little like the whole entire around the world for the football.
Yeah, the visuals on the around the world one were my favorite. So
yeah, I love that one.
Yeah,
so I mean, the thing was, the helmet cam. I mean, it was fun. I mean, we'll get more into that later. I mean, we'll have the breakdown of league by league one, but. We'll touch that later on the show. Yep.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk spring football towards the end here. But, the big news that happened. So it is Saturday here in Japan, and we're into the second week of the NFL playoffs, but I don't even want to talk NFL playoffs just yet. The big news story that happened in the overnight for me when I woke up was the news about Sports Illustrated going basically Sports Illustrated, as we know it now, laid everybody off. So I figured tonight that's a good stepping off point to talk about sports journalism in the 20th century versus the 21st century, the impact of Sports Illustrated in America, and basically where do we go from here, and is Sports Illustrated even relevant in today's sports journal in today's sports. I don't want to say, I'm stammering here, and it's something I've always dealt with since I was a kid, but in today's sports environment, Sports Illustrated
stratosphere. Yep.
Yeah.
Stratosphere.
Yeah. So Fran, listen, let's talk real quickly. Let's start off then. When you heard the news today about Sports Illustrated, what was your first thought when you heard the news?
No surprise at all, because back in the heydays when we were young kids, It was more of a magazine where everyone you got in the house and they read and read and read. I mean, it was more of a paper where you wanted they gave you like this half off, just begging you to get it because if you purchase it, they're still making money. Now in the digital age where everything's on the computer, nobody wants to pay to get something sent to their house. Nobody wants to pay to get a newspaper delivered to them. I used to be a paper boy in New York for 11 years for the New York Daily News. Now my job will be obsolete, baby. So,
I subscribed to the print version, God, up until several years ago when they went from all of a sudden it was a weekly and then it was a bi-weekly. Like, man, what's going on? So that was kind of the tip off when I knew, without paying close attention to the news or the financials or anything like that. Hey, what's going on with Sports Illustrated? But then again, I mean, to me, Sports Illustrated, I remember it very well because I mean, it was let's listen, back in the 70s as a kid, there was no pornography basically was like drugs. You didn't know where to get it, but you knew it was out there somewhere. The closest thing that a young boy had to Playboy was when that Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue came out. And that was the one where at the library they put that one away when when that issue came out. So, but the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition obviously is the cornerstone of that magazine. But there's so much more to Sports Illustrated than just girls in bikinis.
yeah, there was definitely a lot more. The pictures of them, the stories, the writers. I mean, there's some really great writers, and like in the heydays, I mean, it was a lot more visual than it is now with the athletes, the players, the features.
Right.
I enjoyed reading it. I mean, the thing is, when you're younger, you don't appreciate it as much, but when you get a little bit older, in that age, I mean, that's fun to read, especially if it's a compelling story. Or whenever they remember they broke the Pete Rose scandal stuff, Dave, when that was like everybody bought Sports Illustrated to read that stuff. When they get a
Yeah.
breaking story like that, that's when they make tons of money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the golden age of Sports Illustrated was when you had writers like Tex Small, Frank DeFord, and hell, even just recently with Peter King. And it was the best sports writing out there. I mean, there were other magazines, Inside Sport magazine, but Sports Illustrated was the gold standard of sports journalism, magazine journalism back in the day. And for anybody who wanted to know what was going on in the world of sports, you went to Sports Illustrated. And plus, two, the Sports Illustrated pictures are some of the most iconic in sports. Those covers, even now, just looking through their archives, they still give me chills.
I mean, the visual, and the visual pictures, especially in the 70s, 80s, like the bird magic stuff, that was awesome. Michael Jordan, slam dunk, those slam dunk contests, some of those dunk photos, like the tongue and other videos, they were really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And like for me, being such a, football nerd, those those images on the cover each week basically, was your starting off point. But to me, I still remember seeing there's an image, a cover image. This was in 1976. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I believe it's a picture of Rocky Blyer running in the snow. And to me, I still have the subscription. I mean, I subscribed to SI, the digital edition, just for the archives. And being the sports historian nut that I am, I like going back and reading those old articles. There's a great one of the best Sports Illustrated issues was their pro football preview in '79, where it talks about the future of football. And it's fun reading now, God, living in the future. And because it was like, what's sport going to be like in the 21st century? Well, you read their predictions, and half of them are just god awful ridiculous. But there's the other half that they nailed. And there are more technological changes coming in the I would say next 10 years. It's going to make a lot more of what they predicted reality. So, but yeah, yeah, no, it was just, it bummed me out. I saw that. I'm like, okay. Then my first thought was, okay, how does this affect the archives? And to me, that's the most important part of SI is the legacy they've left behind for all of us. Because as somebody, being a member of the Pro Football Research Association, anybody who's listening to this podcast and is PFRA member, I'm assuming will agree with me that the news kind of hit them hard today. Like, oh man, another part of our past gone. So what do you think, Fran? What was how often when did you start really first falling in love with Sports Illustrated?
Probably like when I was like my teenage years. And so I'll tell you a fun story. My aunt and uncle wanted to get me a Sports Illustrated to read for Christmas. My dad makes the comment, don't get it for him because he won't read it. Isn't that nice? Dad, come on, have a little more faith in me.
Yeah.
I mean, at the age, if something appealed to me, I would have looked. But come on, you gotta. I mean, at the age he may have been right, but still, I mean, I still would have looked at it. I still would have checked it out. I mean, it depends on the topics. I mean, it depends on it depends on the topics. Like a magazine I used to love about was Pro Football Weekly. Because that was like certain when they had certain leagues and stuff like that. That when you had. I mean, I kind of like the magazines where it's geared towards one sport you really like, not one that has everything on it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, growing up, I mean, the great thing, Sports Illustrated obviously catered to each sport during the season. But I never got Pro Football Week. I saw it in the stands, but it's one of those that now, and thank God there's been a lot of efforts by a lot of great people to archive what has come, like the Internet Archive. There are other websites that you can find a lot of these old issues. And I've got to go back. I think I'm going to spend a good part of my week actually going back through trying to find old issues of Pro Football Weekly from the 70s, just to read those write-ups. Kind of like me right now going back and looking at old, if you remember when we were in school, when they had the Scholastic Book Fair. And when that happened in the 70s, I was all about, okay, what are the pro football books? So like all pro football 77, 78. I was a huge Bob Greasy fan. So there was one issue of the book, Bob Greasy was on the covers. So, I mean, I'm just hopeful that Sports Illustrated at least will survive. Now, we do know with Sports Illustrated that they've got this thing called Fan Nation. Mike, and you and I were both talking about this prior to hitting the record button, but is that going to survive?
According to some a person I spoke to, yes, but I mean, especially if they're either getting paid very little or the magic word free. So if they get, it depends on. We'll see. I mean, to see what happens. And the thing is, if not, then some of these guys may go back to the dark side or back to wherever they want to.
Whatever news hub they came from.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, like I say, I mean, I enjoy that content. I enjoy some of the content, but like I said, the thing is, once you're in the game, it's hard to get out of it. Let's just say that. I mean, that's why I'm happy to write for Arsenal Central because this is my platform. I don't have to. They're not gonna. My friend's not gonna sell the site. He's not gonna let it crash, let it die. So I'm safe. So I'm having fun having my little platform. These guys are like they're like begging this UFL to get big, so then they think they'll get big. Well,
yeah.
How many alternative leagues gotten big? I'll give you the answer, Dave. None. I mean, Arena Football thinks they were to that fan base. It's funny. The fans of the league think it's big, but then here's the funny thing: you're on Facebook and you get all these likes and stuff, but then outside of your circle of friends, nobody cares. No, I mean you think you're big shot. I'd love to no one's having water cooler talk on when I'm writing on Our Sports Central. I wish they were, but they're not. So,
well, I mean, Our Sports Central has been around. God,
yeah,
how many years?
Like 23 years, 22.
So it's on
years.
Its third decade now.
Yeah, right. So I mean, the thing is, longevity is better than we won't say his name, but a guy that I have a name and I'm gonna brand my product everywhere we go.
Yeah,
right, yeah. It doesn't work because nobody. What media outlet? Who the hell is this bleep guy? I mean, I'd rather be with Art Sports Central where I have credibility than why would I want the France Dutch? Who is going to give me a press pass for that? They can't even say my last name. Why are they going to give me a press pass? So,
well, yeah, I mean, seeing like UFL coverage on SI when I first saw that's been relatively recently. What this got to be a joke. Then I saw it, I'm like, holy shit, it's not a joke. But it's got the SI brand attached to it, so that at least at first glance gives them some credibility. But guys like you and I and Dave, we know enough to dig a little bit deeper and see who's writing these articles, and then you're looking at it going, oh, okay, well, yeah, I didn't really think he was that credible before, and now I'm reading what he's saying here. He's the what kind of turned me off with this UFL coverage on SI was one writer in particular working for one of those fan sites is now working for SI and then calling out other people who write for fan sites about spreading rumor when that person, in fact, kind of engaged in the same thing online. And I just, listen, just write. It's one thing to speculate, and we all do that. I mean, whether it be on tape, whether it be in print, whether it be on social media. But listen, if don't call out people for doing what you in fact yourself have done. Don't play that. Be nice. Be nice to, we're all in it for this. We're all in this in podcasting and writing and that because we all love football, we all love sports. Let's just try to be one happy community. Don't piss on each other and hold somebody up to a higher standard than you yourself for when you yourself have spread not. And I'm saying this because when this whole issue came up with the UFL SI thing, there was somebody out there on social media, God love the guy, but the internet never forgets, and there was a video of said person doing the exact same thing he was accusing other people of. So that's all I got to say.
And as far as these guys that write, I mean, if you're going to write. Don't just present a fact-driven story. I'm linking up some of these articles to Art Sports Central. I'm like, it's just a story from another site. If you're going to write, I mean, the signing, give an opinion. Will he help? Is he going to help the team? Is he going to make team? Add a little commentary to the damn thing, please.
Yeah.
I mean, these sites that just, here's the news. No, that's nonsense. Paul would shoot me if I wrote something like that. I mean, here's the story situation. You write a story. I mean, you give opinions, and then you back those opinions up with facts. That's why Art Sports Central, is a credible website where anytime I give opinions, Paul's not going to put that in my article because that's what a blog does. Right. We're a website.
Yeah.
And the question.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that SI did, because they don't do it anymore, at least not that I know of. But what I used to like about reading Sports Illustrated, obviously sports coverage, but then you would have essays, which to me are some of the most beautiful pieces of writing out there. Somebody just kind of giving their opinion and writing about it. And whether you agree with it or not, you walk away going, that was a pretty good article. I didn't agree with what he said, but I kind of see where he was coming from. And we have caught so far away from that. Not only, obviously, outside of sports, but in sports in general. We don't have sports essayists anymore. And it's sad because that's, to me, what helped me grow to love the game, what helped me to just love sports writing in general. The days of Grantland Rice, Peter King to me was the last great essayist at Sports Illustrated. And then he saw the writing on the wall and left.
I mean, my goal, Greg, is when I write something, if I can get at least one thing in there that somebody learns something new, that's my goal.
Yeah.
To give a fact, some sort of opinion, something that people are going to they read this stuff and they'll actually, I didn't know that. Or during this podcast, we mentioned something, about practice squad roster players getting a pension. Nobody knew that, but we knew it.
Right.
And the story, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's the key to good writing. I mean, if you walk away instead of people that write a lot on the internet are crowing, it's all about clicks and likes. Oh, we got this from a Twitter account, this and that. But I don't walk away learning anything new when I've read stuff from you prior to, you and I meeting or talking or even connecting. I'm like, okay, I learned something new that I didn't know going into, before that. And that to me is obviously the key to great writing and what you see now. And, you and I probably harp on this more with the UFL coverage because there's just so much of it right now and crap being spewed out that, with Dave and I last year, we did the XFL InfoWars show because we were tired of all the spin. And so, that's kind of what we're doing now. We're still kind of following that tradition. It's like, let's call out the spin jobs.
Well, like Dave, now I'm on board. Like I said on Facebook, we're like DX. We're going to say it as it is. I mean, and if you have a problem with our opinions, we have 2 words for you. Not the words that will get us expelled, but too bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, our opinion, you know what? It's like we used to say in the Navy, man. Opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one.
Meanwhile, there's other bloggers are looking for a carte blanche with the league or credibility, or maybe they get their dream job to get out of their house with they living with their parents. Not going to happen that way. Doesn't happen that way. It never will. So I mean, it's nice to see you're working. You're doing some work. Let's see, what are you doing outside sports, and are you living by yourself? That's the that's the big question. I'm sorry, but it's
when I've engaged with people like. People, okay, I get the DMs on Twitter. Hey, what the fuck is, pardon my French. But WTF is what is your problem with my writing? Well, okay, first of all, my problem is you're direct messaging me. In fact, asking that question, that's problem number 1. But aside from that, dude, ask questions. Anybody who's listened to this podcast knows I'm a huge fan of Howard Cosell. Love him or loathe him. The one thing about Howard Cosell was he wasn't afraid to speak his mind and ask the hard questions. And that is what I've had an issue with a lot of these, we'll call them what they are, bloggers who are, trying to be professionals, not asking the hard questions, especially with the UFL coverage. And I know with covering the minor leagues, that is critical. I mean, Fran, in covering these minor leagues, that a lot of these minor leagues are operating on a day-to-day type budget, and that, they don't operate. I mean, they want it. A lot of these leagues operate on hope, and hope doesn't pay the bills.
And Dave, let's be honest, some of these people that do this, where if you ask the question and, context, your demeanor, the way you say it, the league may not give you a press pass. I'll give you a perfect example. Like some of these guys that covered those no-name arena football sites, they basically were afraid to write anything negative or critical. Otherwise, their press passes are out the door. So what are you trying to be? A fan, a cheerleader for a league, or actually a legitimate site where you're providing fan information and being objective? What do you want to be? Do you want to be you're not going to gain anything being Mr. Everything is pie and it's kind of lovely, lovely, lovely. With me, if I see something I don't like and I can back it up with facts, I'm going to do that. A perfect example, hopefully this league, I'm begging this league, is to have post-game press conferences that I can, use quotes to my column, because the thing is, I don't have to make that opinion. If a coach says it myself, I am fine. I did that with the USFL stuff last year. I was using quotes. I'm like, if quarterback has a bad performance and the coach says it, that's their opinion, not mine. I'm safe. Right. That's it. Safe immunity. Yep.
Right. And too, with our Sports Central, and again, I'm plugging you guys left and right, because you guys don't do what all these other fan sites do, is delve into the speculation as if it were fact and kicking out a YouTube video. Let's talk about, what might happen. Okay, well, no, that's, it'll happen when it happens. And when it happens, we'll report about it.
Greg, I'll give you one funny example. Some guy on Facebook messaged me. Remember, I don't know if you saw it, but some indoor football team mentioned that they have an interest in having Charlotte as a possible XFL team next year. I mean, now some site, indoor, like the that folded. And the guy immediately messages me and says, "Do you want to come on the show and speculate that? Why the hell do I want to speculate on that show? I was at the UFL XFL Championship in San Antonio. I'm doing great things. I'd rather talk about what's going on now and not something that's never going to happen. I mean, come on. This is not the National Enquirer or as the football league turns. Come on. I'm a journalist. I'm not a fantasy soap opera writer. I mean, right. I want to be if someone invites me on the show, let me talk about something I either did or something I'm covering, not something that's never going to happen. These dumb bloggers are just wasting endless hours. Remember during this time where nobody knew anything, they were wasting hours on hours and hours of guessing. Meanwhile, I'm just waiting patiently. Presley comes out, writing my story for Arsenal Central, and then boom, you came along. I got lucky. Unfortunate. I was able to talk about it when it happened, not before it happened, because I want my information to be correct. I want to say the right things. I don't want to waste my time saying a bunch of stupid nonsense that doesn't happen. End story.
Well, also too, the internet never forgets.
And that guy, that James Larson guy, I'll say his name. He posted on Twitter that 8 USFL teams would be part of the merger, and also 4 XFL teams would merge. And apparently, one guy from Birmingham that hates the XFL and loves the USFL went on every football page, XFL, USFL related, as a victory lap for the USFL. And guess what? It didn't happen. So, and the thing is, the league probably follows this stuff. So, I mean, and the thing is, why would the league give someone like this access if he's throwing anything up against the wall when it's false? Meanwhile, a guy like me who does it professionally and never has burned any bridges or to that extent, I'll say the only thing I got from my articles I wrote, that UFL inside UFL article, I got a laugh, and you wonder where that laugh came from? An angry Canton fan that lost his team. Well, Canton doesn't deserve a team, and there's a small market. It's not. I mean, it's not going to happen. So if they did that, that means this league is being as cheap as possible. So smart move, UFL. If you want to give them a little bone, how about this? Our preseason game next year. If you want to give those people in Canton a little bone where they can have a little fun and feel important. But when I said that, fans they want all or nothing. Isn't that nice? I hope these people don't have kids, because if that's the way you're raising your kids, then they're going to be disappointed most of their lives.
Yep. Yeah, it's
come on, just get over it. Be happy. I mean, if you don't want to support it, then fine. Another perfect example I'm going to bring up. One guy who's a little bitter about this about this XFL merge, because he was working with USFL, and right now he doesn't have a job with them. So if you're bitter, fine. If you're bitter, then fine. Just don't come across that way, because people don't forget. And if I see this guy at a game, I'm going to say, what? I mean, either you care about this league, that this is going to be the best chance you have for a long-lasting alternative football league, or you're bitter about not having a little notoriety and a little bit of money, anyway. So make your mind up. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, when it comes to the rampant speculation, it was all over. And I know, one writer who's on podcast, he is the, and we're not talking about Jim. We're talking about another person who is a well-respected, and I'm using air quotes. He's always on every show that needs their person. I mean, they always headline them. And, going back to that UFL article on Sports Illustrated, well, when that came out, there was one person on Twitter who, it's one of those guys. He's kind of like, I love him, but sometimes I kind of loathe him. But on this point, it was like, oh, then he reached down to the archive, and it was quick as how quick he found it, showing said writer saying the exact opposite. Saying, doing the speculation about, oh, it's going to be this is very cocky, making these pronouncements when in fact none of that stuff was true. So no, that's what I like about you guys. You guys write after the fact. You don't delve in speculation. And thank God, I tell you what, now you got on social media, everybody and their mother has got an opinion. Oh, the UFL should expand.
No,
What?
no. I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you the perfect example. Right, how many established markets right now are in this league? You have San Antonio established. I mean, as far as like a decent fan base, you have DC established, St. Louis. That's it. Arlington's a little bit mixed, but they have their practice facilities. And as far as the other teams, Houston with that new stadium, they're going to draw flies there. And those other three USFL markets, Birmingham's. I mean, I'll see when I believe it. I mean, they have the talent, they have a team, but let's see what Tennessee do. Memphis was a graveyard, and Michigan is still up in the air. You're indoors, thank God, but still, let's see those other markets grow and develop. And one thing I want for accountability standpoint, please release the attendance figures. I want that to happen because the XFL did, the USFL did, because only a couple of teams were in markets, and the ones that were in market, they didn't want to embarrass themselves, with with actual attendance figures. But seriously, just be transparent. And I feel more confident with that, with the XL people running the show.
Right.
If it was Moose Johnson, I'd be a lot more concerned about everything being sugarcoated and no information going on. That's just my
And
opinion.
this is where you and I are probably going to disagree. But my take on the XFL leadership, and this was last year, so we'll see where we go this year. My issue with XFL leadership last year was it was focused on two people in terms of their public persona.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Danny and The Rock. And listen, I still watch the games. I knew what I was dealing with. I got tired of seeing The Rock. I got tired of seeing Danny. I got tired of the narcissism, but I still watch a football game. I'm hopeful that moving forward, the narcissistic image that these two project will be replaced by a league image, much like we see in other leagues where it's about the players, it's about community involvement, it's about all those things that that make the NFL great, and that we wish the CFL would do more of. So I'm hopeful this year, but I think expansion, people that are spouting off expansion, especially on social media. I mean, I'm to the point where I just scroll past.
Well, I think once Greg, I mean, this was like a shotgun wanting to merge these people in the first place. The more teams would have been more disorganization and more money they would have lost. Why expand into unestablished markets? What other markets could you have added that would, if they had a team in Canton, that would have been a joke. Right. That would have been an embarrassment.
Here's a thought too. This is not. I mean, this league doesn't have to worry about expansion fees, much like the original USFL that we know expanded way too fast. And there was a lot of other issues that, I mean, that's a whole 5-part show unto itself, talking about why the USFL failed. But the the UFL doesn't need to expand right now because it's a one owner type league, much like MLS was, and they can try to figure this out as they go along. Adding, having 12 teams, I agree with it. It's just, it's go with the 8 teams. Let's see how we go. Don't be like, the arena football leagues where they expand way too quick to get the expansion fees and all these teams fold. Same way with what happened with the CFL with the American experiment. So,
well, Greg, hopefully, we'll play a little prediction game right now. Week 1 UFL season. Last year at the XFL season, The Rock was at all 4. Do you think The Rock will be at all 4 games in week 1? Yes or no? Will he?
Yeah.
I don't think he will be. I don't think he will be this time. I hope he's not. I mean, if he's at all 4 games and they're showing him, that I'd be a little. I mean, is it necessary? Well, the thing is,
if I see Danny or The Rock, I'll be like, I'm gonna go grab a pop or something. I don't need to see these two idiots.
Well, the thing is, I think you needed last year. We'll see what happens. I mean, it also depends on The Rock's schedule, and let's see if every year around that time is WrestleMania going to happen, and him and Roman Reigns going to put on the show on the planet. Yeah. We'll see what happens, but every single year they have to have something. They have to keep on adding to that bloodline angle where Roman Reigns will be the champion for the next 50 years. So you might as well, keep on grabbing someone else from the family to feud with him. It's just, that's my wrestling spout of this show, and we'll move on.
Okay. Well, listen, let's change subjects a little bit. Let's talk about what else is going on in the world of sports that you cover with our Sports Central.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The first thing that I want to talk about, and this is something for me, you guys write about the only place that really that I know of writes about women, covers women's soccer. I mean, other sites do, obviously. I mean, but it's our Sports Central. I think, hey, this is the one place I can go, to know more about women's soccer. So the other night when I was watching the news here, I watched the morning news at night in Chicago because I'm on the opposite side of the world. Well, the Chicago team just signed one of their players to the biggest contract in women's soccer, and just the optics of it and looking at that report, it's nice to see women's soccer in general, doing well in a city like Chicago that is very fickle. And when it comes to new sports teams, when it comes to new sports, and also that there being a decent crowd over at what I think it's still SeatGeek Stadium over in Bridgeview, over by where I used to live. And so what's going on with the women's soccer league? Where are they at? Where are they going? And what's the outlook like for this league?
Well, it seems like the teams realize they have to spend money. Otherwise, they're going to be in the bottom tiers of the league. These teams, everybody has to spend or either have the perfect system. Like the Courage, they signed a couple players during the draft. They got a player from the Washington Spirit, and she was heartbroken to be traded. But the thing was, teams they realize that you have to spend money to win and to make money and to get fans in attendance. And plus, like the Chicago team, everybody wants to get to the elite level. I mean, Portland, has always been good, and now Seattle with the new branding might actually help their fan base instead of Old Lorraine nonsense. What the hell is Old Lorraine? I don't know, Dave. But that was when that European brand nonsense.
And as we're talking, I'm kind of going through your article, and I don't usually like doing this, but it's still morning time, and I'm still kind of waking up. But can you explain to me what MLS Next Pro is? Because I was looking at your article, I'm like, I have no idea with Next Pro.
This is what happened.
Next Pro.
You remember USL?
Yeah.
That's what the MLS said. Let's create our own monopoly and do our own thing and build a feeder system and then do all these things where MLS Next Pro. And the funny thing is, most of the teams are affiliated. I don't know why you'd want to be an independent team in this league. Where are you going to get the players? Like Jacksonville, I think they should have stayed in the USL, but they want to be an MLS Next Pro, and Tim Tebow owns a team. Like the problem with these teams are the league wants them to be in different markets to spread the brand a little bit more. Because if you're in the same market, I mean, it's nice to develop talent, but you have to get people in attendance. At least these USL teams and USL League One teams, fans are in attendance. Some of these MLS Next Pro teams, crickets.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're watching a game on TV and you don't see anybody in the stands, it kind of almost makes you not want to watch because you're like, I don't know if I want to invest my time and effort into this.
And the other problem was, at least with the USL Championship and USL League One, I was able to DVR the games on ESPN and enjoy them. Now the game on CBS Sports Star, that's a separate thing, but they'll have games on there as well. But the thing is, now it's like MLS Next Pro. I didn't even watch Championship. I mean, it's gonna be buried on Apple TV, which people only get when Lionel Messi steps foot someplace. But where can I watch MLS Next Pro? I don't know where. And why would I want to watch soccer on that such a low level?
Right.
It's just unless you have a team in your market, how are you going to care? It's like, I'll give you another perfect example. Like North Carolina FC, when they were USL League One, I have a busy schedule, so I didn't really cover them because they were USL League One. It was such a lower level. But now they're a USL Championship. If my work schedule fits in where I can cover games, I'm happy to give them more coverage because it's a bigger league. Better talent, better players. Well, it gives me more bang for my buck. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. And the major arena soccer league, where how big is that now? Because I remember, man, this is going 30 some years ago. I actually went to an indoor soccer game at the Allstate Arena. At the time, it was still called the Rosemont Horizon, and I watched the Chicago Power play. Is Arena Soccer League back?
No, it's not. It's not. It's
No?
not. I mean, they have games on YouTube. But as far as I'm concerned, I know you don't want to spend the money, but get the games. Get the games on a cable network. Get the championship game on there. These leagues don't want to spend the money. They don't have it. That's the biggest. I mean, indoor soccer is fun. I used to like it. When the MISL on Versus, that was
Yeah.
fun when you had the games on there. I used to watch those games like that. But these leagues are just so shoestring budgets. And in the heydays, I mean, in the 80s, indoor soccer was great. That's where Jim Forster, the league
Right.
founder of arena football, he did that bill envelope where he came up with this plan for arena football, which was good till 2008. That's just my
Right. And could we call these leagues, especially, we use the arena soccer league and even the indoor leagues, can we pretty much call those semi-pro leagues?
Well, in some
Because
markets, I'll be honest with you. In some markets, they love it. Baltimore Blast, they still love it. Some
right,
of those markets, Baltimore Blast, they played in terrible arenas for a while with that old dump in Baltimore. Now they're in I think Towson, but they played in some places they really it's like a cult. Perfect example, like this new arena football league.
yeah.
I think the teams are going to get the best attendance for Orlando Predators. I mean, it could be a lousy product, but they have such a long legacy.
Well,
They'll
there's a
get
history
seven.
there.
They'll get 70,000 fans just to have fun night out because they're a party crowd. I've been to games and I've had fun. In the heydays, I've seen things I should not have seen. But I mean, it was fun and energetic. Jake Gruden. I mean, when he was a coach, I mean, it was a fun. Orlando, they loved their team. So, and the
Yeah.
thing is, this league's not going to be as good, but there's going to be people. Hey, let's go out and have a fun night out. And some of these leagues, as we know, Dave, give out free tickets. So if they get a
Yeah.
free ticket, they're going to get out of the house.
And I mean, these are guys that are playing that are want to get noticed by the next level. So I mean, they're going to hit hard. They're going all out. And but these guys still have to hold regular day jobs. I mean, playing at night, playing is not their full-time job. I mean,
Part-time jobs, other
yeah,
thing, and then they hopefully have a stable job in the off season. And if they're married, hopefully their wife is working. Please,
right. Well,
but
I mean, it kind of harkens back to the day back, and I've been doing a lot. I've been doing a deep dive in my NFL history back in the '60s and '70s, and back to when the heroes that we grew up with in the NFL. For me, it was Bob Greasy, you know, Roger Staubach. I mean, those guys, but they all held. I mean, it was they still had a full-time job, and even though they were paid, and they weren't paid that great in comparison to what they could have been. Um, they still, in essence, it kind of were semi-pro players because they still had to have a full-time job on the side to pay to pay the bills. So that's why I was asking. And then lastly, let's talk about a couple things that with you close to home. We've got the American Hockey League,
Mhm.
and we've got the
Outdoor Classic.
Yep,
Yeah, I
yep.
mean, they had a good crowd, and it's nice to see. And that video I have that came
And
from one of
for those wondering what we're talking about, so you had a crowd over 11,000 seeing the Checkers in Uptown Charlotte, and they beat Dave's team, the Rochester Americans, 5-2 in the Outdoor Classic.
I mean, it looked like an exciting product. And the thing is, that's where the Charlotte Knights team plays. And Dave, I'm going to make a couple of trips to Charlotte for various teams. So I'm hoping to, down see like either the Carolina Chaos or this rugby team we'll be talking about shortly, or the USL Super League team. If I'm going to be down for a weekend, I'm going to get my bank. I'm going to get the most I can of it and try to enjoy as much sports as I can.
Okay. And in terms of, say, the attendance in that game, so the entire stadium was filled up, it sounds like, right? For 11,000 in a minor league stadium?
Yeah, pretty close to it. I mean, but the thing is, in a baseball field, it doesn't look as good because if it was like a football stadium, it would have looked better on from a TV standpoint because you have those weird angles.
Right.
But from a just from a standpoint, fans had a good time. I mean, if I lived in Charlotte, I'd go to that. Why not? You get to experience a minor league hockey game outdoors in a ballpark. Just drink some hot chocolate.
Was that the first time the American Hockey League did an outdoor game?
I think they've done other markets. I think they have on other
Okay.
markets. Yeah. So
Because
other years,
obviously we know how, I mean, remember when they did it the first time in the NHL, it was like an experiment. and then next thing you know, everybody's got an outdoor game, and it's a
Well,
oh, go ahead.
it's crazy because it makes a fortune because you get, especially in those college teams, like they had that at the Carolina Hurricanes game. They had like 60, 70,000 fans, and then 2 days later, Dave, guess what? They had the North Carolina NC State hockey game. They had like a record crowd of 20,000 fans there. So fans, the thing is, if you're going to do it, utilize it. I don't know. We'll have to look into see what else was used there. Hopefully, they had like college hockey, something else. Because the thing is, if you're there, let other people use it. Don't just have your one big show and do that. The only league that can get away with that is the Super Bowl. But the rest of the leagues, come on, share the wealth.
And moving on from hockey, let's talk about lacrosse in the National Lacrosse League. And I'm going to be honest with you, I know nothing of the National Lacrosse League. Explain to people what it is, where the cities are at, if it's trending up or it's holding water or it's trending down. What's going on with this league? And as somebody who is from major market in Chicago, why should I want to watch this league?
Well, it trends up, but the problem is, it's just if you have a team in your market, you can care about and appreciate it more. If you don't have a team in your market, you're gonna have to get ESPN Plus to follow it. That's where you can watch all the games. So
fortunately, I can do that. I'm able to actually access ESPN Plus over here with the help of.
And I will say one thing: unlike these other small leagues, at least they give fans some. They do a better job on social media. Like when my week around the leagues, I always play a top 5 highlights. So I get the top 5 plays of the week. So like 2 minutes, you get your boom, 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 and you usually you're entertained by that. It's fun. So that from that standpoint, where if I had a team in my market, I'd love it. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to see the Georgia Swarm game in Atlanta for the first time. I'm going to see the National Lacrosse League game for the first time. So I get to experience that, and we're going to have one hell of a show when that after I get back from Atlanta that week.
And then we also have the Premier Lacrosse League.
And the Lacrosse League is on the upking. Guess what, Dave? You want to know why? Because they're actually making an effort to have some games in home markets. This is the first year they're playing home markets.
Now, is this a women? This is a women's league.
Men's.
Oh, it's men's. Okay.
Men's. Paul Rabel. Remember they were there. Paul Rabel. I mean, remember when Major League Lacrosse was trying to get involved with them, but they ended up buying them out to get some things. So I mean, there's a great documentary. You'll have to check on Premier Lacrosse League on ESPN Plus. You guys, I watched it. It was great. It was really how the league built and developed and overcame a lot of obstacles.
Okay. And moving on to basketball, we've got the NBA G League, which I don't know anybody. I don't know. I know in Chicago we've got a G League team that I think plays up well, it used to be called the Sears Center. At least that was the last I knew. But I really know nothing about the NBA G League. They play at the same time as the regular NBA, correct?
Yeah. And the thing is, the G League is more about developing players. Because the thing is, if you're an NBA affiliate, that's what you want to do.
Right.
The ones that in other leagues where here's the problem, Dave. Do you want to develop players, or do you want to, win and get fans in attendance? That's what happened with that Chicago Wolves and that Carolina Hurricanes mess. Because the Wolves want to win games, but the Hurricanes wanted them to develop players, and the Wolves said, "Get lost. We'll do our own thing."
Okay. And then lastly, let's talk about Major League Rugby. And this is something you and I were talking about really before we hit the record button. And I'm gonna, as somebody, you would think somebody like me who loves football and everything would, oh, you must know a lot about rugby. I know nothing about rugby. I know it's, we've got, I know there's a team in Chicago. I know that, there's a major league here in Japan. But aside from that, I know nothing. So explain to me what Major League Rugby is, how long it's been around, and how's it doing in the States?
It's a slow build. And the problem with Major League Rugby is they've had teams come and go. That's the biggest problem. It's been a slow build. You gain teams, then you lose teams. You gain teams, and you lose teams throughout the years. Like, perfect example, you had the Austin Gill Greenies, and then and then you had the LA Guillotines, the two named after popular drinks. They had some sort of scandal with cheating with players and got banned from the postseason, and they were out the door. And then this past season, the New York Ironworkers are gone, and then the Toronto Arrows. Unfortunately, Canada's having issues. The owner died. They couldn't find local ownership, so they were gone, and they went down 2 teams. But here's some good news: a little redemption. Charlotte has a team, and now I have a team to check out some games, cover them, and maybe even do a couple interviews. So, I'll reach out to them, and they'll hopefully. That stadium is going to be used for a lot of things. When the Charlotte team is playing, they're going to have that Premier Cross League there. They're going to have Major League Rugby. They're going to have that USL Super League in August. That you're getting your bang for your buck in that league as well, that stadium as well. So,
Okay.
and Charlotte Independence, they probably play another arena, but another league, but that's another team that's out there as well.
Well, and the thing is with rugby, I know there's so much like American football can learn from rugby in terms of player safety. But American football, I mean, especially like when it comes to tackling and avoiding, trying to avoid injury just to the head. Rugby is such, I mean, it's American football was birthed from rugby, but it's amazing to see just how different the sports are.
And the thing is, Dave, not being from Carolina, I don't know how much of a rugby following there is in Charlotte. I can look into it and see what's going on, but it came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting them to get a team out of nowhere, but here's the problem: they had 11 teams. They wanted 12 teams to make the schedule better, and like I said, it's going to be it's a rush, yes, but it's good to have a team back and give half those players that lost their jobs back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, rugby is one of those sports here in Japan that I know is popular. And actually, as we're talking here, I'm kind of fishing around here, but we've got the Japan Rugby 1 League, which I'm looking at some of the teams. I think there might be a team in my area. The problem is for me here, it's just trying to access it and watching it on TV, streaming and that.
Well, Greg, have you ever watched Rugby Sevens? That's a little bit more entertaining because the games are short.
No, I wouldn't even.
Rugby Sevens is fun. I mean, even like when they have the college rugby, that's fun. Those teams are fun to watch. There's a team that dominates that plays well. Life University. I don't even know where they are, but I mean, it's amazing though. Like those small sports, college sports, no one cares about. Those teams dominate. It's just weird that the big sports they can't do anything, but the small sports you got these teams out of nowhere that have dynasties. So it's kind of fun how that works out.
Well, it's, when it comes to rugby, I mean, what I know is based on what I saw in a movie, which was that I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it was about the South African rugby team. When in the world, I forget the name of it off. I feel bad. Didn't really think I was going to be talking movies here during the podcast, but that's what I know of rugby. So it's kind of one of those things now that as pretty soon we're going to be in the off season football wise. It's a sport I need to start. I know John Gunning with Inside Sport Japan and with the podcast over that I do with Gridiron Japan. It's always talking about rugby when we're not talking. It's I need to learn about rugby.
Well, Greg, next time we have Dave, when Dave gets plowed out of snow, which might take about 10 years, but when he gets plowed out, he'll come on and he's like he knows it more than me too. He watched the games. He knows this stuff a lot more. He'll give us our fans, our loyal fans, a little education on that. But games I watch, they're entertaining. Sometimes they get boring when they're too much about field position. I like it when they do all the laterals and they spread the ball around the field, and the kicking is a little bit weird. Some of those weird kicks and the thing is, if you score at a weird angle, then you have a weird try to get that conversion. That's kind of weird thing. It's just it's fun, it's entertaining, but some games are fun and other games are boring. But I'll give this Major League Rugby credit. IFFS2, they do a half an hour show, hopefully that you'll be able to get. I mean, I DVR every week, so I'll be able to get my highlights, interview, at least invest in the league. UFL, please do something on your own. Don't rely on people that nobody knows to present your product. Get Pat McAfee if you can. Get somebody. Do an ESPN show. Get Tom Lugabell. That guy's awesome. That guy loves the league. Get people that know the league and love it. And and Fox Sports, that's please not count on Cowherd. That's like he's only doing it because he's being told to do it, not because he wants to do it. Enough said.
Right. Well, it kind of gets me into my next subject I want to talk about. It's this past weekend we had the Chiefs and Dolphins that the playoff game was on Peacock, and obviously a lot of people were pissed off because they couldn't get their playoff game. Now, right now we've got Amazon Prime that has the Thursday night game. So we're already in that age where you got to pay extra to watch NFL football aside from getting it over the air or, via YouTube, via the NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube. But in general, traditionally football games, playoff football games have always been an over the air. Doesn't matter if you have cable, satellite, or antenna. Bottom line is if you could watch it on free TV. Well, the age of free TV is pretty much over. I mean, it has been over since Amazon, bought the Thursday night package. Where do you see this going? Are we midway down the slippery slope?
Well, Dave, somebody from another website made a prediction that next year, Amazon Prime's going to get it. It wouldn't shock me if Amazon Prime gets them because they at least they have the people, the amount of subscribers. I don't subscribe to it because I rather just spend a little bit more than $25 to get free shipping. But people that subscribe to it, I mean, Amazon Prime is nice. It can be a curse and it can be a blessing. Perfect example because if you have Amazon Prime, you're going to buy a lot of stuff. You'll be able to buy anything you need, but the problem is you're going to end up buying stuff you don't need. And then the pain in the ass about buying stuff you don't need is getting in return. Then you have to go to UPS store and do all these other things where it's just, I don't know. I mean, if you have a family, it's perfect for you. Then you can get everything you want delivered to your house. If you're single, nah, no thanks.
Do you see though? I mean, when it comes to, you and I had this, Dave and I had this conversation offline that I can see, at least me, I can see in 5 years, the free TV, over the air TV is going away.
Because with Peacock, they had around 23 million people. The thing was, prior to that, they gave a lot of promotions like half off. They gave people a really enticing offer, and plus the fact when you look what's on there, you have movies, you have stuff. And if you're a wrestling fan, you can watch the Royal Rumble in 2 weeks. But I mean, those streaming services are cheap, and if all you have to do for these people that spend it for 1 month, just watch a movie, stream a TV show, and you're getting your money's worth. So don't complain about $6. If you complain about $6, man, you're in more trouble than you realize. Come on.
Well, and the other part of it too is, as I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, I know, when we were kids growing up until I forget how many years ago when they made the switch to digital TV, you could watch, TV with rabbit ears on an analog TV. Sometimes it'd be a fuzzy signal. But bottom line is the NFL was always on TV, on free TV. And I'm just kind of going back to the days of growing up as a kid when all I had available was, an antenna to watch, we're talking Howard Cosell type Monday Night Football years here. But we've reached a point now where, honestly, I mean, the terrestrial TV is changing too, on top of everybody going to streaming because the technology, because now we're all digital TV. And, I'm sure you remember when we had that switch over when you had to go buy a converter box to switch over to your digital. So if you're an older person or doesn't, person doesn't have much, when it comes to money, doesn't have the means, and you're kind of relying on a form of technology that all of a sudden is obsolete. I just see us going down this road where, God, over the air TV is going to be obsolete, at least in America. Where I live in Japan, it's different because, I live in a condominium where, we've got a giant antenna on top, captures all the signals. In Japan, over the air TV is, it's digital TV, but it's going strong. And there's no talk of it ever going away. But again, I live in Japan.
So Greg, when you watch NFL games, how do you watch them? I watch NFL Red Zone. I love NFL Red Zone. You get all the games. And now I'm addicted to that. Because remember in the heydays, Dave, when we were watching one game and then we get the end of the other game, I'm like, oh great, I get to see another game. And now I get all the games. So it's kind of like, I'm spoiled that way. But now it's to a point where I can't watch one NFL game over a friend's house or at a bar and not be bored out of my mind unless it's a good game. 'Cause I got
Well,
spoiled with Red Zone all the interaction.
how I
Scott
watch
Hansen, God bless his soul. He's great.
how I watch it internationally is I have a DAZN, DAZN, which is the DAZN.com. DAZN is how they pronounce it. And basically it's the international, it's much like ESPN, except it's not. It it has a selection. It's based out of Europe, and they have the NFL Game Pass International. It used to be run solely by the NFL, but the NFL sold it to the rights to this for the next 10 years to DAZN. And so basically it's like the NFL Sunday Ticket, period. You can watch any game, anytime, including, I don't need to worry about having an Amazon Prime membership because those Amazon Prime Thursday night games are on DAZN on the International Game Pass. So everything I watch is streaming. And so, I already paid for, anybody got the NFL Sunday Ticket, which is a lot of people, pays for the NFL. The NFL has figured out how to way to make money out of all of us, and we're all like crack addicts. It's like, hey, give us more, give us more. The NFL, they make money hand over fist.
Black Friday, Dave. Remember that they started that Black Friday, and believe me, when you say believe me, they'll go to the international games. I don't want those international games, but they'll have one. They'll have it in Australia. Dave, what's next, Dave? Well, Dave, you're a travel connoisseur. You know the world better than I do. What other more places where NFL games haven't taken place? Will they take place?
Well, they haven't taken. It's been a long time since they had an NFL game in Japan, and in order for American football to become popular here, and it's not popular here, the NFL needs to come over here. But the question is where's the money? Where's the market? Specifically, where are we going to sell T-shirts and hats with NFL properties? And so, they're going to Brazil, which, makes sense. Brazil's got an expanding population. It's an economy that has a lot of potential. Germany, England, the places where they've been, and that, and going to Europe. So, if you're, kind of segueing into what I wanted to talk about at the last part of this podcast here was the World League of American Football and how that idea for spring football from the NFL to expand the game globally started with a spring league of which 3 teams were based in Europe. So my take on the global game for the American football, at least with American football, my take on American football internationally starts with that World League of American Football.
And as we break it down, I was into it because I love alternative football, and I had a team, the New York, New Jersey Knights. I watched that first World League game. The Knights played terrible in that game, but that was still my team. That was still
who'd they play?
They played the I believe Barcelona Dragons. Barcelona. They played the Barcelona or London. Believe me, London Monarchs. I believe. Yeah, one of the other. Let's take a look here. 1 second.
You got the.
I'll tell you right now.
I don't. Yeah,
I got it right now. Here we go. They played the Barcelona Dragons and lost 19-7.
Okay.
In front of Montjuic Stadium, in front of 19,233, where that was the first ever game, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. I mean, and Barcelona was a weird team. They had that Jack McNell guy from BC, and he interesting character. And those end zones in Barcelona, like so they were short. They weren't regulation. So
yeah, that's what I do remember. These were like 7 yards, which you think about it, and that's people forget a soccer field and an American football field are not the same, and that became very apparent with that Barcelona team. Now my team was, because I've been in Chicago, I didn't have a team, so my team was the London Monarchs. I mean, football in England, it don't get no better than that. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to London or spent time in England, but it's, aside from, if I wasn't living in Japan, the next place I would want to live internationally is England. I've spent enough time there, so it kind of counts as a residency. But man, the Monarchs, that first season was such a great season especially for the European part of, for expanding the game internationally.
And your Monarchs, Steve, they had an average attendance of 40,481. So that was like in Wembley. So
Yeah.
and then the World Bowl. I mean, the dress rehearsal for the World Bowl, London, Barcelona, week 10, they attracted 50,835 fans. And and then the World Bowl itself, I mean, which was won by the London Monarchs, they had 61,108.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
I mean, based on year one, I mean, let's take a look at these teams. I mean, these in League One, I mean, it got off the ground, it succeeded, but Dave, the Montreal Machine, Dave, do we need a stereotype? Do you really need to have a Canadian coach in that market, or could you have an American coach building a brand? What do you think?
You know what? Considering where the CFL was at that time, having a Canadian, I mean, having a team in Montreal was a great idea. And I think, there was enough interest shown with that Montreal team that when the Baltimore Stallions folded, it just made sense to go. I think if that Montreal Machine team weren't that successful, at least at the box office, and if that World Bowl weren't that well attended, I don't know if we would have seen the Stallions moving back to Montreal. Maybe we would have, but that's just my take. I mean,
And the head coach for the Montreal Machine was Jacques Desault. So
yeah.
you probably know.
Anytime you have, listen, Quebec is a separate country from Canada, even though it's part of Canada. It's it's. I was up there. I was in Montreal last year, and it didn't feel like English speaking Canada. It's French. So the people live in Quebec, speak French, are very provincial, and the whole province. I mean, you've got to, in order to have a job there, you've got to speak French. So having a French speaking coach, a French Canadian coach, that meant the world. But unfortunate, no pun intended. But I think without the Montreal Machine success, what little they had actually, I think is what helped convince, the Baltimore Stallions to move north.
I mean, focusing on the World League, year one. The European teams dominated. They kicked ass. Dave, look at the standings. The London Monarchs 9-1, Barcelona Dragons 8-2, and Franklin Galaxy 7-3. I mean, that has to be the best three-team division record in Autonomous Football League history.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And like the Barcelona and the Franklin Galaxy, Jack Elway, John Elway's dad was coaching that team. Mike Perez is the guy I like. I mean, the team, they were a fun team to watch. I mean, the teams that brace those markets. And we'll talk about the East Division. We'll have my team, my New York, New Jersey Knights. I love them. They were so much fun to watch. Mouse Davis and the run and shoot. The problem was, Dave, in alternative football leagues, Dave, here's the biggest problem, as we see in every league on this planet. No offensive line. So the Knights quarterback got killed and destroyed. So that was entertaining. I mean, it was to a point where I was watching this game like, Mom, you have to watch this. This team is fun. And my mom's like, Fran, you're right. She enjoyed this team. The run shoot offense was fun. I mean, the Orlando Thunder, Helmet Cam, Kerwin Bell. Look at the first game against San Antonio. That was on USA. That was like really, without a doubt, one of the most entertaining games I saw of the World League season. It was kind of like a real fun game where you had on Monday night in the Citrus Bowl, Lee Corso was the general manager. He was so into this league. What league was he into? 35-34 in front of 21,000 fans at the Florida Citrus Bowl. So that was a fun game. And then let's go back to some little more things. Here we go. Here we go. Second. Yep. And then we have we mentioned Montreal Machine, and now a team that's in my market. One of the worst teams, Dave, in alternative football league history. The Raleigh Durham Skyhawks. They were 0-10. And who was their coach, Steve? Roman Gabriel. So let's talk about my Raleigh team. Now that that was home of NC State. What's 1 second here? Yep. The problem with them, Dave, was that it was a college team. And you know what college teams you couldn't do at that time, Dave? sell alcohol. So let's, and they were just, they were getting terrible attendance because people want to go to games to drink. Here we go now with the Raleigh-Durham Skyhawks. They were, here was the problem. Let's give a little history with people. They were 0-10, 12,666 fans, due in part to the lack of beer sales, which was not allowed at Carter Finley Stadium. It took about 30 years later for that to be allowed. And then the team folded after that long season, which was kind of sad. But if you're gonna lose, George Shinn was the owner, went on to be with the Charlotte Hornets, and if you're that bad and you lose lots of money and you see no hope of money, you're not gonna bother. But the Skyhawks lack success did not sour the NFL in that state because they got the Carolina Panthers, and then 8 years later they got the Carolina Hurricanes,
Right.
who started out in Greensboro. So that's the history of the Raleigh-Durham Skyhawks. Back to the West team, the Birmingham Fire. That's an interesting team we'll talk about right now. The Birmingham Fire was Chan Gailey, coach teams. They had great crowds in the beginning heydays. They were a real fun team to really Birmingham is Dave. Does that? I mean, Greg, does every football you have to have a team Birmingham?
Pretty much. I think it's actually required. I think it's actually coded into federal law now. That
Come on, Dave.
Every spring league has to have a team in Birmingham. Scott Adamson, our former co-host, can speak more to this than I can because he wrote a whole book about alternative football in Birmingham, and it's a great book. It's on Amazon. Type in Scott Adamson, and it's titled "My Bromance with Spring." Just type in Scott Adamson, and Scott's book will come up. So Scott did a great book on it. I just wish it were on Kindle, Scott. That's all I'm saying. Him and I've had this conversation, but yeah, I think it's pretty much required. You have to have an outdoor team in Birmingham, which, we'll see. We'll see how this year goes in Birmingham, if they're able to get how the crowds are, if it's actually gonna if spring football has any staying power in Birmingham.
And then we had a team close to my heart because the San Antonio Riders. Mike Riley guy. Come on, he's coached in every football league known to mankind. Humble, nice guy, hard worker. CFL, won great cups. The guy is a grinder. I mean, what do you think about Mike Riley? I mean, he's won when Winnipeg. I like the guy. He's a very nice guy, but I like the guy.
He is, you can't. I have no bad words to say about Mike Riley because all Mike Riley has ever done is win.
And Greg, I don't blame him for 1 second for trying to get NFL. Every coach gets the NFL, and if you fail, you fail. And if you fail, you still make lots of money. And Matt Rule can account to that with the Carolina Panthers.
Right. Yeah.
And then Sacramento Surge went 3-7 that year. We'll go a little bit later on with the Surge team. That team just, the fans loved it in year two, but we'll discuss year two in a second. But the Surge were a team that just they ended up getting the first CFL American team, which the standalone team. So that was kind of cool. But playoff games, my New York, New Jersey Knights. Oh man, Barcelona beat Birmingham 10-3 in the semifinals. My New York Jersey Knights. I love that team, but they lost to London all 3 times. Fun story, Dave. Greg. Here's what happens. The London cannot host the semifinal because they had a concert going on. So the Knights got the game and they still lost. So 3 straight times, and then the championship, London dominated 21-0 over Barcelona. I thought Barcelona was going to win the game. I thought they were a better team, but then again, they're playing at home. London wasn't losing that game.
Well, the thing was that first season with the World League of American Football, it showed a couple things. It showed that, first off, the NFL was interested in having a spring league. Okay, because remember, for people that don't remember, this league came about 5 years after the originally USFL. Actually, the only USFL. That other one that we've had recently is not the real U, but the real USFL folded. The NFL, this was back during a time period when we didn't have social media. Hell, we didn't have the internet. Um, so cable was, and cable was becoming more and more popular. That the NFL saw an opportunity to basically conduct an experiment. And they had obviously the funds to do it. And this was an experiment that went on up until when did the NFL Europe end? That was 2008, right? Approximately. Something like that. So it was a long lasting experiment. And so with 3 teams in Europe and then the rest of the league in the States. So what they found out that first year was they got to figure this out in the States. But the European market is very much untapped and has a lot of potential. So that was really what they learned. And obviously what we saw with that World Bowl in London, and just timing, Stan Gelball is the quarterback of the Monarchs. I mean, I think he would, I don't even know if he cracked I know he was on a practice roster in the NFL after that, and I don't think he did much. I know maybe he played for the Cardinals for a minute.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Seattle Seahawks.
He became kind of the face of the league.
Yeah.
At least for the face of the league in Europe. So it was hugely popular. And of course, they're playing in Wembley, and filling Wembley Stadium up with 60,000 people is a huge feat for a sport that.
For sure.
Yeah. And, there's a good book, and I don't remember if we talked about this in one of the podcasts. I know I did an interview with the author, the Gridiron Cup, Keegan Dresso. If you listening to this podcast, it's back in the archives, back about last year that I talked to him, talking about, the premise of that book is Bert Bell wants to expand the American football game globally. So coming off the 1948 Olympics in London, they host an NFL exhibition, and the sport just becomes the sport. It overtakes soccer as the most popular sport in the world. But I digress. Having in the real world, there was an opportunity there for the NFL to really grow the game internationally. And I think, and this is just my opinion, I could very well be wrong, but I think the numbers might actually, prove me out in my opinion. There was such a groundswell of support for the Frankfurt team and for the London team that they could have expanded the World League of American Football in Europe, especially in Germany and England. And had they done that right away and just got rid of the other U.S. teams, which were, they were just all hemorrhaging money, and there was bad attendance. I think, we might be looking at, maybe we have another an NFL Europe still today. I don't know. It's just
I think is Montreal was on its heydays because they were eventually going to get CFL again. They were eventually going to get the CFL game eventually back there. Eventually, it was bound to happen eventually. It was they were bound. They were going to get back there when the money, the resources. They had that stadium, that little. First they were playing Olympic, then they realized the guy who played McGill. They had a game there, and people showed up. And I went to a CFL game in McGill, and that place looked great. It was small, and the Olympic Stadium. God bless them. If you can have a playoff game, pack the place by all means. But otherwise, play where it looks better. Play where weather's a factor, because in the CFL.
Well, that was the other thing too. People forget with spring league, you got to deal with some funky weather come spring, and to have a team in Montreal. Obviously they've got a dome on the Olympic Stadium now, but to play the spring game in Montreal, that's with the way the season, it gets cold up there, and so. But my take on the World League was, and just that first season, it was a huge success. They learned a lot of things, and then they went to season 2, and then from where you're running the lead on the history of the league for this episode, and then what happened?
Well, All right. If you had control in this league, let's let's say you were running the show after the season, and you knew the Raleigh-Durham Skyhawks for folding. What U.S. market, Greg, would you have picked for them to
Well,
expand to?
it sure as hell wouldn't have been Columbus.
Ohio Glory? What a joke! What a joke! Ohio Glory. What did Columbus deserve in that market? And remember their quarterback, Babe Loffenberg. Remember him? He held the clipboard with the Dallas Cowboys. And remember that one game where the Cowboys need him to win to make the playoffs? He bombed, baby. But I remember that Dave Loffenberg. I mean, it's crazy. I think Lee Corso was coached him in college. I mean, that guy did not deserve couldn't play in the NFL. He couldn't play in any alternative leagues. I don't even know how he even got his opportunity.
Well,
did he know somebody, Dave?
The Ohio Glory to me just sounded like and looked like a team that you would see in a movie that they just make up for the movie, kind of like what was it? Any Given Sunday with some of those teams in that the teams in that movie.
Based on the roster, they had nobodies. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Let's see if you know any of these guys. We know our football. Greg Fry, have you heard of him?
No.
Pat O'Hara, I know. You want to know why I know Pat O'Hara? Arena football. That's why I know Pat O'Hara, because he played arena football. He coached arena football. Otherwise, I wouldn't know him either. And anybody else on this roster? Tom Rowan. I think he. Let's see. I think he was an NFL player. Let's check here. Tom Rowan. He did win. That's why WLAF launched his career. He played for the Broncos, the Steelers, Seahawks, and the 49ers. He played a bunch of teams. So that was kind of a well their standpoint. But here we go on the. Here we go 1 second here. Let's go.
Well, here's an interesting factoid about the Montreal Machine. You know, their average attendance was around 32,000 the first year, 25,000 the second year. Now, see if the Montreal Alouettes would kill at this point for that type of average attendance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just amazing looking at the numbers for really all these teams from way back when in terms of the attendance numbers they were drawing compared to what we see now in spring football.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the Orlando Thunder. Well, let's talk about this. Is Heat division? Orlando Thunder. They finished the division 8-2, and Scott Mitchell. He went on to I mean, he played great in that league, and he played in the Dolphins when Marino got hurt, and everyone's saying, "Oh, he might take over Dan Marino." No, that wasn't happening. And then he got his money with Detroit Lions and bombed. Then he journeyman backup quarterback. Then Dave. What happens to people when they usually crash and burn and they get depressed? They gain weight, and he gained lots of weight. And guess where he ended up? On The Biggest Loser. So,
well, the most memorable thing about the Orlando Thunder,
the lime green uniforms. I love their lime green uniforms.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I might even buy a jersey. I might even buy.
I bought a jersey, put my name on the back of it, so I've got
the
awesome.
Lime
green. They're awesome. Not as good. You know what? I need to buy a matching magenta Southern California Sun jersey to balance out that lime green, the loudness. Just something about, man, when you saw Orlando playing, like, ooh, I got it just for the uniforms alone. I mean, to me, that's why I became between Orlando and London. It's like, yeah, I want to watch the Orlando game. Why? I just love the uniforms. To me, it's all sometimes football fashion is kind of what draws certain people in. And at least that's what it, my football fandom started with the love of the Miami Dolphins uniform. And I was 10, so.
And it was about Orlando Thunder for fans. Check out the logo. I love that logo, the Thunder logo with the lightning bolts. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, I've actually got. If you're looking, obviously we're not doing a video show, but you can at least see me on camera. But I've got an Orlando Thunder mini helmet down there with that logo. So where is it at?
Scott Mitchell.
Oh, there it is, right there.
Yeah, and Scott Mitchell was the guy. Kerwin Bell. That guy played. The guy played the CFL forever. Kerwin Bell.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy. Some of these guys, you take a look at Joe Howard Johnson. That was the guy that bounced around a couple NFL rosters. You had a couple other guys like that played in this league. Tracy Bennett was a kicker for a little while. Some of these guys, the offensive linemen, not really did much of an impact. But Charlie Bauman was the guy that played year one with the Orlando Thunder. He played arena football and kicked for a bunch of leagues. And they were a fun team to watch. But Scott Mitchell, that's amazing where he went. He went from top of the world to, he
had
crashed and burned, but now thankfully he has the life back on track. But the thing is, I don't know what he weighs now, but I'm happy he's gotten his life under control. He's happy, and I'm glad that show is the worst show to actually do that. You can't lose weight. You're basically have a whip to you to lose weight. Did you ever watch
to
the
me,
Biggest Loser?
I always had it. Yeah, I always had a tough time watching that because it just seemed like everybody was
It's so
getting
fake.
fat shamed. It was everybody getting fat shamed. I'm like, you're. That's just. I mean, I don't like shows that demean people, and this one, in a backhanded way, demean people, and I didn't like it. Now I don't know what Mitchell's doing now, but listen, I mean, I've struggled with my weight over the years, and obviously retirement has helped bring that down because I don't stress out as much over stuff. But people, obviously, it's kind of hard to watch that show because everybody's struggling with something else in their life that, I don't know. It's just me. I don't want to go off on a tangent on shows like that, but I, you know, I'm happy to see, what is he doing now? Is he coaching?
Well, here we go now. I found a little article from the Detroit Free Press. It's a huge weight off Scott Mitchell's shoulder, or more to be accurate, off his small and midsection. Until long ago, he scaled at 366 pounds. That's 130 more pounds than during the Mitchell's dozen seasons in the NFL. And you'll have to tune into but now look at the makeover week. Mitchell is new look down 242 pounds in the weigh and down 124 pounds at a tearful reunion with his family. What an amazing story. I mean, that's nice that he did that. Unfortunately, Dave, if you look on history of those shows, they gain all back. So, I mean, that's just unfortunate where it's like if you lose it to such an extreme level, it's impossible to stay at that level.
Yeah.
And once the cameras are off TV, it's like it's too much of a commitment. You got to. It's so much you have to. I'm a heavy set guy, but
it's an environmental thing.
It's such a hard thing. I mean, thankfully I'm healthy, but at the same point, I'm like, I like to think of myself as like, look, I mean, I walk, I take a lot of vitamins, but at the same point, I'm like, I don't fat shame me. I mean, I'll tell you a story, which I'm gonna hate this guy. I went to a Triangle Torch, whatever the league was called back then, when they played Durant Arena for a little while. I went to a press conference and they held at the Golden Corral. Why the hell would you hold the Golden Corral? And the guy, the owner, he didn't have a shirt my size. He made some comment which really pissed me off. He's like, I mean, why are you such a big guy with all the walking you're doing? So you know what I did? He was a Facebook friend. I blocked him immediately after that. I'm like, how can you make such insensitive comment like that? Jesus, I mean, come on. I'm like, I'm here giving you guys courage. I'm covering your event, and then you just because you don't have a shirt my size, you're gonna throw me under the bus. I'm like, after that, I'm like, oh please. I mean, I have more important things to focus on than to give you attention, especially when at that time our special potential didn't even cover the league. I'm like, I'd rather just go for walks, do other things. So it's amazing what you learn when Fran's on your show, Greg.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my take just real quickly is I understand the struggle. I mean, it's, when I was in Iraq, I dropped to, I was 180, and then I come back and to real life in America. And I served in I was in a combat zone. I didn't, people say, well, you're a combat veteran. No, I'm not. I served in a combat zone, huge difference. But during my year in Iraq, I was able to drop, quite a bit of weight just because I was in Iraq. It's a matter of circumstance. But then I came back to the States, put it all back on. So no, but no, it's good to see he's got his life back on track. But that's the thing too, with a lot of these players after they're done playing, and I kind of can understand being after you leave football, something you've known all your life, and then you're out. It's a hard. I mean, I
depression.
Yeah.
I mean, out of spotlight.
Well, your life changes so drastically when your career ends. Now it depends, and also too, it depends how it ended. There's some guys that handle retirement well, transition well, but a guy like Scott Mitchell, I mean, he was basically a one-hit wonder and got a nice paycheck for being a one-hit wonder. And then, some guys just don't know really when to hang it up. And just when you go from the top of the NFL back down, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle. So it's good to see. Just
But
a good to see him. He turned things
he turned his
around.
life around. He got better. Let's take a comparison to a guy we know very well, because whenever you saw him on TV, your eyes would bug out. The hefty lefty, Jared Lorenzen. Remember him with Kentucky and then those
Yes,
indoor
you know
leagues?
what? I was thinking.
And he died,
I'm
and he
glad.
died, and he
Yeah,
died.
I was glad you said that because I was going to bring him up, but I could not remember his name.
And I will. And let's look him up, and we'll give you a little. Let's give.
What was his name again?
Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty.
Daryl.
Jared, I'm looking right now. Here we go. Let's give fans some more stuff that you're never gonna find out. They refer to him as the Pillsbury throw boy and the hefty lefty because of his weight. And this is what happens. Here we go. After seeing little NFL time, he spent his entire career as a backup with the Giants Super Bowl winning team. So he got a ring. Then he had a preseason stint with the Indianapolis Colts. Then he played in the indoor leagues, where the Ultimate Indoor Football League, and he was like this. Oh my! The size of him, people were like, my eyes were bugging out. And then he also served as a commissioner of this UIFL, United Indoor Football League, which is, I think everybody's been there's a million indoor football leagues. Lorenzo struggled with weight most of his career, and then he got exasperated following leg injury and his playing career, and then various health applications. And from his weight, he died 2019 at the age of 38. So heartbreaking loss.
I remember when he died. It's like, but I couldn't remember his name as we were sitting there talking. I'm like, there is, but yeah, the hefty lefty, and it's a sad story. I mean,
here's the more weight stories, man. I mean, we should do a Weight Watcher segment next week. Here we go. Chronicleize attempts at fighting obesity. Worse to Scott Mitchell, up to 500 pounds. And then 2018, he lost 100 pounds. And then July 3rd, 2019, he died from an acute infection complicated by heart disease and kidney problems. Oh man, that's a terrible way to go out. Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, man, it's sad.
So I mean, it's, and now let's get to a more.
I was going to say, let's flip the script here and let's talk positive.
Let's go to New Jersey Knights. This is right. My team. I'll tell you my fun story about them. I was kind of like an introvert in high school, and I didn't get to do much fun things, and I wasn't really part of the cool crowd. So I loved this league because it gave me something to watch. And guess what I did? I decided they had that New York Jersey Knights Fan Fest, and I didn't tell my parents. I went to New Jersey. I hopped on a train in Manhattan, went to the Port Authority, and that's a little scary at that point. Hopped on a bus, got to New Jersey, I was on the Meadowlands field for the first time, talking to Knights players and coaches. That was kind of fun. So I'm like, one guy, Mouse Davis, I'm like, finally, I get to meet my idol, Mouse Davis. I said, Mouse, you lost to London 3 times this year. You got to beat him at least once. You know what he told me? We're going to beat him twice. So, I'm like, I was heartbroken. They lost to the London team 3 times, like their arch nemesis. So that was, start with them. They were an interesting team. They were, let's go. They started the season 0-4. Let's go one here. 1 second.
And the thing is too, about the World League, in terms of lesson learned, because I mean, we're talking about a league that spanned 2 continents, and oh man, I gotta look. How many time zones?
Yeah.
And so the NFL learned a lot about just logistics,
travel, and
what it's going to take to have a team. These are lessons they're probably revisiting now as they contemplate, are we going to put a team in London or not, in terms of the logistics involved.
And New York, New Jersey Knights, they started the season 0-4. I was at the point where I was like, oh my God, my season's over. I have to give up on this team. Their playoff hopes are done. And then wait for it, they won their last 6 games on the edge of making the playoffs. They did not make the playoffs. I was basically telling people they were rolling on their 6-game win streak. Let's start with their 6-game win streak. 24-21, Frankfurt Galaxy. 34-11, Montreal Machine. 41-13, London Monarchs. Ohio Glory, which everybody beat. 39-33 overtime. Barcelona Dragons, 47-0. And the Montreal Machine again, 41-21. I'm telling people, if the Knights make the playoffs, they're going to win that game. They're going to be in Montreal. They're the highest team in the league, and they were going to win that World Bowl instead of these Sacramento Surge people. And they did not get in there, unfortunately. So that was like one of those things where that happened. Then we had the Montreal Machine, where they had a successful year one, and unfortunately they dipped. And when you dip in a new market, that hurts you.
Yeah.
They went to 2-8. If you don't win in these markets, fans are not gonna show up. Unfortunately, in these new leagues, you have to have either win or have a fun product. And they bombed. And the Ohio Glory, God help us all. 1 year wonders, 1-9. They were a train wreck. As
Well,
far
at least
as
they won a game. I mean, better than what Raleigh did the year before.
And let's talk about the European League, Dave. This shocks me the most. I mean, how can the European League teams be so good in year one and then bomb in year two? Barcelona 5-5. I mean, Frankfurt 3-7, and your London Monarchs were 2-7-1.
Well, I mean, let's keep in mind too. These are teams that were
high
turnover and for lack of a better term, they were practice squads. And that's really what they were. So you had so much turnover. I mean, and therein lies, I think, when the World League and the worst thing, what killed football in Europe, the NFL in Europe, was when they shut the league down. And then they came back a few years later. And I always use that example to people with the UFL. Oh, yeah, they're going to bring these teams back. Nobody's going to show up. I mean, look at what happened in the World League. The Monarchs went away, and then they came back, and then they went away again. So that's just my take.
No. Yep. We're going. One second. Yep.
Sure.
And then we get to the we'll get to the West teams. Sacramento Surge. This is the team that played great. I mean, this is the guy you probably know him pretty well, David Archer. So remember him, the guy. I mean, he played in CFL.
Dave Archer's played everywhere.
Everywhere. He's played everywhere. I think he may even coach somewhere, but he was really good. They went 8-2. We'll talk about them later in what they did in the World Bowl. But the Birmingham Fire went 7-2-1. That North West Division was fun. And San Antonio Riders, they were probably my favorite team in that West. I liked Mike Riley. I liked his that was my probably my second favorite team in the league after the New York Jersey Knights. I liked the way he coached. I liked his style. And they were 7-3. And as far as the playoffs, you had one good game. Sacramento, Barcelona, 17-15. And then the Orlando spanked Birmingham 45-7. And the World Bowl, before we get to that, Dave, Birmingham made such a huge push to get that World Bowl. And by no surprise, where do national media outlets and people want to go to for big games? Do you want to go to Birmingham, or would you rather go to Montreal? I'd much rather go to Montreal, so the league chose wisely. Why would you want to go to Birmingham? I don't even want to go. I'm not even sure if I'm going to go to Birmingham for a UFL game, unless someone gives me a free plane ticket to go there. But in all seriousness, I mean, the league made the right decision going to Montreal. Why not? Put in Canada, you're indoors. I mean, I'll tell you a fun story about them. They had baseball going on in between those days. So I was watching the baseball game,
right.
and if you look, you'll have the World Bowl logo on the field the day before where balls bouncing off that World Bowl. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot the.
Yeah, but all in all, that World Bowl was fun. Oh, let's get here. All in all, that
World
Bowl.
I think you can find that World Bowl on YouTube too.
Yeah, let's go here. I mean, let's break that down, because this will be the last time we ever talk about this league ever again. But
we'll probably be talking about it later. I mean, we're weekly now, so the World League, and like we talk about spring football, will rear its head again.
And like I say, if someone dies, well, you'll hear it here first. Here we go. Yeah, well, come on. I never expect to talk about a football player dying. So the one thing I like about your show, Greg, is like anything goes, and you let me just be the Rain Man of sports knowledge. Instead of writing it, I'm talking it.
Yeah. So while everybody else is speculating about the UFL and what's going to happen, now we're just talking sports memories, and we don't speculate. We guess maybe. Well,
I'll be honest with you guys. I grew up on Mike and the Mag. That's when I'm a little bit like Chris Russo. Guys I looked up to were like Chris Russo, growing up being opinionated, but saying it with facts, which I'm doing. Yeah. Another guy I liked Colin Cowherd. Like I like the fact that when he misses wrong, he misses wrong. No other media guy does that. Another guy, Pat McAfee. I love his enthusiasm. He gets the energy going. And a guy I like from being a wrestling fan for being opinionated and taking off the cuff comments, Joey Styles from ECW. I'll give you one comment, Joey Styles. They're on the TNN network. Arena Football's on the TNN network. And Joey Styles, I laugh so hard when he says this. If you want to have a job, nobody knows you exist. Be an arena football announcer. And imagine an arena football guy says that. This guy's bashing us. What are you gonna do? You're gonna. We need you guys on there. We need the money from you guys. We need exposure. That off the cuff comment. At the time, I loved arena football, but it was so funny because I can't really think of, besides Eli Gold, anybody, or Mike and Mike. I can't really think of anybody as a arena football announcer that had any legacy in that league. None. Zilch. So Joey Styles, you were right.
I can't think of anybody. I mean, in terms of the only person that still has, we all talk about Kurt Warner. You ask anybody about arena football people, it's Kurt Warner. Name another person, and nobody can give you. They have to go to the Wikipedia to go look that up.
I can give you some guys, but
but in terms of household names,
I mean, Doug Flutie's another guy because he went for the CFL, but that was a little bit different.
Yeah,
I mean, Warren Moon.
But even then, you know what? But even then, with the CFL and Doug Flutie, you mentioned in this day and age, people know Kurt Warner because he's still involved. He's with the NFL Network. But say a Doug Flutie, a Warren Moon, the names have faded as time has gone on. But it's been guys like Kurt Warner that keep a media presence that people still. It's just amazing to see where we're at now. It's like Kurt Warner, he's the NFL guy. No, the guy that played for the Cardinals and took the Cardinals.
I will tell. I mean, I'll tell you a fun story. If anyone read my how covering arena football, leagues impacted a writer, Google covering arena football, Fran Stutchberry, and you'll see how that league launched, how my career launched. And then I decided to, guess what? I had nothing going on job wise. Let me go take a computer class so I can still be part of this college radio station. So I did that, and I'm like, why not? I'm like, hey man, that kept my foot in the door without anyone kicking me out. So let me do that, have a little fun, and and then what happened was I said, let me do some arena football exposure. So let me do some things that are going on. I tried to get a Ronnie Gadsden, remember him with the Miami Dolphins? But the minute they found out I was a college radio station, they had no interest in having me on. So that was the end of that. But then Kurt Warner, I contacted the Rams. I got him on. They said they had no problem with that. And the fun thing about Kurt Warner was I knew his history. I knew his background. And then I introduced him as future starting quarterback of the St. Louis Rams, Kurt Warner. And we had a fun talk going, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, so you talked to him when he was still a backup.
When he's back up, first year rookie of the Rams.
Gotcha.
Basically, I got him before he was a star. We were having all this fun about talking. And one thing I liked about him, I asked him, Kurt, are you going to go to NFL Europe again? After which nobody knows besides us people now. But he said he wasn't. He wasn't going to go to NFL Europe. After what happened, he didn't have to. But Kurt Warner was kind of.
Well, he wasn't going to go back because he was. He wasn't
going to go back. He felt 1 year enough was to develop. He wasn't going to go. Plus, he's a family guy. I mean, he had a couple kids now. He has about 20 kids. He had a bigger family now. But back then, it was kind of fun to see him. Not only I joke around people I meet everyday life. Talk to me. You want to know why? Because good things happen to people that come into my life. A year later, Kurt Warner, the Trent Green injury. And I'll never forget Dick Vermeil saying his thing, said, we're going to rally behind Kurt Warner. And guess what? They did. And anyone that was smart enough to pick up a fantasy football probably won their leagues that year, because you could have had him, so late in the draft. He was lighting it up, playing great. And the biggest show on turf. And the thing is, arena football is oh, look at us, we're getting exposure now. We're gonna get some props in situations, and they're practically begging, any reference to arena football to get some exposure and publicity. But the fun thing was, one thing I like about Kurt, he's humble. He's down there. He hasn't changed. He hasn't changed at all, and that's what I like about him. The movie, which I wrote a movie review, which we'll break that down the road. But American Underdog, I watched that movie and I wrote about it, and And the movie was Hollywood size. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have liked for them to do NFL Europe to develop his talent,
Yeah.
which didn't happen.
My only criticism of the movie, and this is minor.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I bought it
good.
and I watched
perfect,
it.
perfect.
But
Now
here's my only criticism of the movie, and this
Yeah.
we'll save, and we'll talk more about because I want to do a future show about great football movies. Because I got my whole list and compare your list with Dave's, and that's a whole nother show. But my only criticism of the movie is that when it came to him being in college and the scenes with Northern Iowa, those scenes of Northern Iowa were not in the dome. They were outdoor. And I'm like, oh, you got to have it in the dome because that's where he played. And I'm just curious. I'm curious why they didn't have it in the dome because that would have made it just added a little bit more authenticity. Because I know when it came to the arena scenes, it was very authentic, but the college one came off as unauthentic only because, I went to a school that played in the same conference as Northern Iowa. So I knew they play in a dome. They don't play outside. So that's just me.
Well, another criticism I didn't like. I mean, this is how Hollywood how movies get Hollywood sized. Here we go. Now I'm going to pull this up. Let's see if I can. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to see. Let's see what I didn't like in this movie. Well, here we go. Now, I mean, I like Zachary Levi. That was perfect for Kurt Warner. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
He was, he was good. I mean,
he was a better Kurt Warner than he was a Captain Marvel. I didn't like him as in the Shazam movie.
The first Shazam was good, and the second one, unfortunately, a lot of them tank, and he was terrible. That movie I fell asleep during, so that's another story. But I'll talk about a little bit about this. I mean, during the days Northern Iowa, he met his wife Brenda, who had 2 kids from previous marriage. So in those days, and usually sometimes when you meet a girl with kids, you'll be a little bit hesitant, but he embraced them. And like one of the kids had. I mean, Zach, was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what happened to him. He suffered brain damage and was blind, being accidentally dropped by Brenda's ex-husband. The thing is, the movie showed Warner immediately embracing Zach and helping him out as much as possible. Seeing the relationship develop with them was like that was one of the focal points of the movie. Where
I agree with you.
And then their life challenging times. After Warner got cut by the Packers in 1994, he worked stocking shelves at Hy-Vee grocery stores for his family. That's where the story that everybody loves, where you come at something to make nothing. I mean, that's what everyone dream. And then Warner received another chance to play. Bruce McGill playing Jim Foster. I didn't like that. I did not like that choice. And I guarantee you, if we ever got Jim Foster on the show, he would totally agree with that. He could have had someone a little bit different. I mean, he still Kurt Warner playing the league, and then what happened was the movie actually, showed the passion. I will say the movie did actually portray the Barnstorm fans, the passion, energy. They loved it. Yeah. They really showed that. I mean,
the arena scenes were very authentic.
How the Hollywood society was. He never got married to Brian during like the day before the arena. Well, they never got married during that arena. Come on. Anyone could read that out. But then, following the campaign, he decided to sign with the Rams. The thing I'm bummed about was Al Luginbill had such a huge part in his development. They didn't want to put him in the movie. The guy is a legend. I mean, the guy runs offenses. His son is one of the most insightful college football commentators. Tom Luginbill, going back to the arena football days where when I covered the New York City Hawks, he was assistant coach. So the guy's a grinder, a developer, and now he does the scouting stuff. That guy knows his stuff, and with this UFL, get him on as much as possible. Make him the lead announcer. He loves the stuff. He'll give the passion. You want the people, as far as I'm concerned, people doing games, the most passion. Don't give me these guys, the big name game guys that don't care.
Well, you also too, you don't want to have these guys on. Hey, the over and under. I don't care about the over and under. Just call the game.
Well, I mean, and like I say,
give me some passion, give me some that, but don't try to sell me. And this is just me. This is an old guy talking now. Apparently, according to my driver's license, I'm officially an old guy. Call the game and give me some color and entertain me, and that's what you need, with these alternative football leagues, because it's not what we got with the USFL, this last version, and even with the XFL. Actually, you know what? The last time I was entertained by an alternative league announcer crew was when Jesse the Body Ventura was doing.
Oh, that was great. That was great. That was great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And I love Jesse. You know what? Maybe don't agree with his politics. And in terms of his service record, we're both Navy veterans.
Well, how about
and everything? But here's my take on Jesse was,
yeah.
I was entertained. The only thing that could have made those XFL broadcasts in 2001 better is if Mean Gene Okerlund was doing play-by-play.
Well, and here's the story. I mean, I covered the league, so
yeah,
we're gonna do a behind the scenes blow of all this happened, and I'm gonna share an amazing story what happened in my life years later. But we'll back to this movie. Warner he passed for 4,335 yards and 41 touchdowns. That was amazing. I mean, and the movie I compare it to, which I think you have to be compared to, is the Vince Papale movie. His movie was similar. American Underdog was similar to Papale.
My only problem with that movie was that they skipped over his World Football League.
Invincible. And the funny thing, here's the story nobody knows. Vince McNeil appeared in both movies. I mean, Dennis played Vince McNeil. He was both. Vince McNeil was in both movies because in this movie he was played with Dennis Quaid, and that one he was played by that guy did the talk.
Not the real
Greg Kinnear. Greg Kinnear.
Greg Kinnear was Dick Vermeil.
And Invincible, and then Dennis Quaid played Vermeil.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's the cool thing about these. I mean, who does sports movies where a coach makes appearances in both? So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
Well, the thing is, I'll be honest with you. When I write, I like to deep dive into stuff. I want people to know everything. I'll research everything on the planet.
Let me ask you this, and we're completely segueing off of the World League, but when we're going to segue back here. But when it comes to football movies, have you ever written an article about your favorite football movies?
I have, because I don't have the platform. Because I mean, give me a platform, I'll write about it. But I mean,
I would say this is just me. That would be a great subject for an essay for our Sports Central. Mm. And this is just me talking. And I know it's, honestly, I mean, you're not the editor, so you have an editor at our Sports Central. But I think, kind of going back to what we originally talked about with Sports Illustrated, what made Sports Illustrated great was those essays about other, like when they would incorporate pop culture. Because do you remember on Sports Illustrated when the movie, you might be too young to remember this, but when the movie Semi Tough came out, I don't know if you've ever seen that, with Burt Reynolds and Chris Christopherson, one of the best football movies that nobody ever talks about. Sports Illustrated did a whole thing about that movie, and I like seeing. I mean, to me, is somebody who loves sports history, but also is very, loves the history of pop culture and everything. It was those types of moments when you had Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty and the Rams, when you had Semi Tough with Burt Reynolds and Chris Christopherson, when you had North Dallas 40 with Mac Davis.
The replacements was awesome. That's right.
And they tried with the replacements, and the hard thing, but when those, like the three movies I mentioned before, those really allowed somebody who wasn't a football fan to it was just a moment in time where pop culture and sports really collided. And it was, and then also too, that's when we had The Longest Yard too, with the original Burt Reynolds movie. But my suggestion is, if you get a chance, I would love to read what you would write about your favorite sports movies.
It's funny because I mean the one that I loved the most was Rudy. I mean, that's the movie that inspired me to kind of pursue my sports.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a movie people forget.
That movie inspired even my article. I feel I'm a sports media version of Rudy. I mean, that movie was also Hollywood-sized. I actually looked at the real play.
It was completely.
And the brother was never a nemesis. They made him be out like he hated. If I had a brother like that, I would have killed him.
Yeah.
Imagine you have somebody fulfilling your dream and keep it. I like the message. It was so inspiring. But the thing was, I mean, it was. I love the message. I love where what he did and what he came out of something out of nothing. That's kind of like my career. I went to Division III school. I was able to pull things out of the air. But the thing is, the real reality I didn't like about it. In reality, the guy was an egomaniac. the guy who I heard stories people met him like he bragged all about him. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, the other part of that is
If I ever come across like that, Greg, you can
when
kick
it
me off the show, please.
when
I don't want to be like that.
when it comes to Rudy Rudiger and that whole story, I kind of reference what Dan Patrick always says when that movie is brought up on his show. Rudy was offsides. Now, with that said, that was but it is a good movie. It's a good.
It's fun. It's great.
Well
It's so touching. I mean, and it portrayed Notre Dame like it was supposed to be portrayed. That's what I like about it.
Oh
I mean,
yeah, but anytime you get with movies, TV shows, how they're doing them now, there's always artistic licenses and liberty. Which, if you're a smart guy like you and I watching these movies, you're like, okay, I just want to be entertained and walk away. Like Kurt Warner's story, the way that we obviously don't need to. I mean, it's great having a movie like that because I can tell you how it ends. I mean, it's easy how it ends. He wins the Super Bowl, but how they portrayed, how they segued from the character actor to the real person was very touching. And to me, that was the best part of them. I mean, I got tears welling up, and I'm like, okay, they captured the spirit of the film, and it was a perfect way to end it.
Well, and also in that Rudy movie where people don't realize Joe Montana was on that Notre Dame team. So if you guys, I mean, I don't know if you have access to Peacock, but I love this documentary, Under Pressure. It's on there. I watched like five segments.
I watched it.
That movie. That was awesome.
It's a 4 or 5 parter. I forget.
But he mentions Rudy. He gives the real. I mean, he gives the whole entire thing about Rudy, about the real truth. That Under Pressure was really so good. Where I mean, John Montana was humble, and the thing is, I wish someone would do a movie on his career because what he did was even more amazing. Where he basically was how he did in college and Notre Dame, and then he went to the NFL. And with the 49ers and Steve Young, I'm like, they kicked him out the door. Let's be honest. They kicked him out the door. He went to Kansas City. He played well. And then one year when they played the 49ers in that documentary, he kicked their butt. So Montana got the best of it. I mean, I don't like the only unfortunate thing, Dave. I mean, Craig. I mean, these guys don't go out on their terms. A lot of these quarterbacks just, unfortunately, they don't get to go out on top. And
only very few athletes get to go out the way on top. I mean, obviously Peyton Manning, the way he went out was on top. I mean, Jerome Bettis went out on top, but very few athletes. And it was sad to see the way it ended for Montana. It would have been nice to see him win at least go to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. Like Kurt Warner. Even though Kurt Warner didn't win a Super Bowl in the end, just the fact that he got the Cardinals to the very edge.
That's what got him in the Hall of Fame. If he didn't get
that's what got him ahead.
That's what got him in the Hall of Fame. And I think I'll tell you a fun story where I was bragging to people that I was interviewing at work that I was like I interviewed Kurt Warner. Like, you bragging about this again? Of course I am, because if you did that, you'll be doing the same thing. So give me a break. I mean, if you interview a guy that was at the time Super Bowl NFL, and then NFL MVP. Now he's in the Hall of Fame. Wouldn't you want people to know that? Come on. So give me a pass.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh no. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
I was saying, but as far as a coach that, he looked like he was going to leave on top. Remember when the Rams won that Super Bowl? Dick Vermeil, he wanted to go out. He retired, but then come on, coaches always want to come back.
Yeah,
he probably didn't want to go out. He didn't want to leave like that. He still had years and money to make, and he went to. But do you think were you surprised when he came back?
Yeah, honestly. I was surprised because coaching.
He made the false promises. He's like and then what happened? He chased more money, or do you want to just show the world that you can do without Kurt Warner? So
well, I mean, we'll see what's happening with Belichick. We'll see. I mean, listen. I retired when I was lucky enough to retire at age 54. Now I worked in a profession where had a mandatory retirement age, and I was, 24 months from that mandatory retirement age. But it's always hard when you leave something to let go, and egos are huge. So when you're a coach, Dick Vermeil, great example. I mean, he was burned out when he left the Eagles. I remember that vividly when he left. And then he came back, and I had my doubts, him coaching the Rams. I thought it was, and for those first 2 years he was coaching the Rams, it looked like failure.
Yeah.
Obviously, they struck gold and they won. So I don't know. I mean, I always look at John Madden. John Madden is a great example of somebody who knew when it was time to go and who never looked back. And that's what, John Madden said, when I leave coach, when I'm done, I'm done. And he never came back. And he went on to bigger and better things.
Well, Greg, a guy that scored royally, which we know which you'll agree with me, was Tom Flores. The Rays, he was on top. There was no reason to go to Seahawks for that cup of coffee and bomb. And,
that's right. I forgot about the Seahawks.
And George Seifert's another guy. Boy, nice. He goes to sometimes you just walk away, enjoy life.
Sometimes money talks. Sometimes it's ego talking. So.
I mean, Tom Flores with that Raiders team, you had those moments where that team were awesome. How can you go to a team that's not even getting anywhere to that level? So
well, and it goes back to what we're talking about, the World League of American Football. I mean, you had a lot of coaches in there. Mouse Davis, you had a lot. Lee Corso was involved, and
I mean,
so you get a lot of these big name coaches that go to these alternative leagues. Steve Spurrier. Mike Martz, and I could probably go. I'm missing a lot of people. So as we segue, somehow we got here. So we were talking about season 2 of the World League.
Yeah.
And so with season 2, it wasn't as successful as season 1, but comparing it now to the spring leagues of the 21st century, I got to say, it was numbers wise, it was more of a success than what we're seeing now, ratings and attendance wise, with the leagues going on.
Attendance wise, ratings wise, plus Greg, they sent players. The people didn't realize that a lot of these guys were on assignments, getting development, and that's going to be the biggest key for the UFL. If the NFL doesn't start, if the NFL sends players, then they're golden. Then they can take years developing. Then if they don't do that. I mean, eventually, here's the story with these leagues. You're only going to lose as much money as possible. You're not going to keep this dying for a couple fans on Facebook that want glory and passion, where this is their big time baby project, and then when it folds, they might be in a straitjacket. No, after a while, if you don't lose money, if it's not profitable, you're gonna cut bait. So that's just, I mean, and the thing is, we saw what happened when the XFL, folded, went bankrupt after 2020. A lot of these football sites, they changed their names because they had to have something to keep fans involved. They had to have something to keep their mindset. Otherwise, you would have had another Scott Mitchell or Gary Runs where you gain thousands of pounds. So that's just the truth. They need something.
And that's what I mean. What's great about our Sports Central. I mean, you guys aren't football dependent.
No, we have everything. I mean, and the thing is, and the funny thing about me now is that I'm covering everything now, and that's fun. In the heydays, I used to just do football, arena football, XFL, United Football League, which those 2 years. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I decided to cover World Team Tennis just to get back into covering sports, and I loved it. And now I'm covering National Women's Soccer League. I've covered lacrosse. Now I'm going to be covering some more sports coming up. Soccer. Now I'm going to do rugby. I'm willing to do anything. I told Paul, if your league covers it and travel is an issue, I'm going to go to it. I want to get baseball teams off my bucket list. I did the Brawl and the Sock Puppets. That was fun. I'm going to do some other leagues. Minor league hockey. Anything that's within like a 2-hour driving difference, I'm willing to go. And also, here's the catch: if I travel to a city where I'm doing something like related, if there's a minor league team in town, like when I covered the XFL Orlando Guardians, they had a Orlando Solar Bears game. So guess what? I covered Solar Bears game while I was in town. I had fun, and I wrote a story, and it was enjoyable. Got a picture take with shades. So, like, if there's UFL championships in St. Louis or wherever it is, and if there's something I can cover to have fun, I'm doing it, and I'll get more bang for my buck.
Yeah. And how many? Let me ask you. With it's you, Paul. How big's the staff with our Sports Central? I mean, just
not that big. A couple people to help out. I mean, there's a couple of writers and contributors, but Paul does a lot of the work. But thankfully, a lot of the stuff is automated. But I'll be honest with you, I have so much passion for Paul's site, for what all the things he's done for me. And these people don't realize I've gotten so many benefits this cover for Arts Potential, you can't put a price tag on money wise.
Right.
Arena football launched my career. XFL, I mean, that got me in Raleigh eventually, where I'm having a great life. And then World Team Tennis, it helped me get out of a depression I was dealing with after my dad died, because I was dealing with a lot of chaos after that. It gave me something positive to focus on. I got Billie Jean King, and I went to DC with Dave Leno, who encouraged me to cover World Team Tennis, and now he's with the Philadelphia Union. So Dave's a great, humble guy. But I went down there. I got familiar with the area. Then I ran into an amateur photographer. He's like, Fran, I want the exposure. So guess what? I wrote a story where I got quotes from everybody. I had so much fun, and I had 30 like pictures in it. And guess what? The funny thing is, if something's good going on, people are going to find it. So Paul told me, World Team Tennis traffic more than doubled with what I was doing.
Wow.
So the thing is, that's the bottom line. If it's good, people are going to watch it. I mean, these click sites, it's not good. People are not going to care. But if it's good, people are going to watch it. I mean, I've had writing people read my stuff for years, and then all of a sudden they say, "Fran, I love your stuff." Look how we met. You lurked, and then you finally had the courage to ask me out. But Fran requested me, and then we got to talk, and now I have a great platform to not only write but also talk about it. Which is thank you. You're another game changer in my life. I mean that, Greg. I mean that.
I feel humbled hearing that. I don't know how to.
I've always wanted to do broadcasting. Now you gave me the perfect format where
like I said, man, that's a great thing about the day and age that we live in. I mean, you're part of Gridiron America Radio Network and the Sports History Channel or the Sports History Network. I'm sorry, I'm only on I need to get more coffee, even though it's like almost 1:00 here. I didn't get much sleep last night. But you are part of the team.
Well, look at the first show we did. I mean, me and you, we never spoke at all, and we sounded like seasoned veterans. And people love my knowledge. My friends actually invested in me. They said, "Fran, you sound great. You sound like you guys know what you're talking about." They were so impressed with my knowledge, and nothing was red. It was all carte blanche. Today's show was a little bit red, but we had to.
Well, the great thing about all of us talking and talking with you is we can talk about what's going on, but we also have the background and the history of the games. And also too, you know what? This is what I like talking with you. I learned something that I wouldn't learn, let's just say, from, if I were to go on or have somebody on another podcast, I wouldn't learn what I learned from you, because all they know is XFL, USFL. I mean, we talk more than just football here. We talk about issues. We talk about
everything.
Yeah, everything. So that's what
and the one thing I love about I am the main man of sports knowledge. That's why. I mean, it's funny because the thing is, I know so much knowledge of history, and all of a sudden, I'm like, who would have thought, Greg, when we were talking about the show, we mentioned Jerry Lorenzen. That was never. If you told me we were talking about Jerry Lorenzen, no, I would have said no way in hell. So it's kind of like it's amazing how the knowledge and skill, and then always compare, and then you combine the forces of what we both know. And the great thing about you is that you watch most of the stuff I did. So it's not one person telling the story; it's both telling the story. And the thing is, we're older, we know the history. These other people that are talking about these things, if you haven't covered it or experienced it, you're guessing. So you're going to come across somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, and people are going to pick that up. Why are they going to listen to you on a weekly basis if you're reading on teleprompter on something you haven't experienced? You experience these things. So that's
hopefully, I mean, we had a lot of people listening to your first show. Like last show, I mean, it was weird last show, the way we did it, because Upton Bell, friend of mine. And so I just sat down with him, and unfortunately we had a very bad connection. I blame undersea cables, though it probably could have very well been his phone. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, I know. Go ahead. Sorry.
But talking with Upton, and then we had had you and Dave, and then it was the three of us at the end of it. So yeah, as we go along, you're gonna, sometimes you're gonna just have me doing an interview. God, obviously, time zones are a huge issue for me. And I mean, thank God, what time is it over there now?
10:57. I'm fine. I'm
now. Yeah, I would say that's actually pretty. I thought it was later. Later than that.
I mean, and the fun thing is, Greg, when people were talking, like, they were shocked when I told you're doing it from Japan. Nobody. how's he? How are you talking to somebody that does from Japan, and they also like that it's on Zoom because on phones it just doesn't sound that good. I mean,
Oh, well, that's that kind of goes to what I was saying about Upton when I had him on the phone. Now Upton's 87, so there's a reason why it was easier for him to dial in. I mean, technology is the older you get, technology becomes more challenging. But yeah, having this Zoom connection, like we're talking, I mean, you sound like you're right next door, and I'm hoping I sound the same. But technology has just made things so much easy for, like I said, you're part of I call it a radio network because podcasting is the new radio because, I get into my car here in Japan, I plug my phone in, boom, I've got, I'm turning on the radio. I'm turning on, like, I listen to podcasts usually through Amazon Music, but there's so many, we're on so many I've lost track of how many podcast platforms this show and my other podcast with John Gunning and BJ Beatty, Gridiron Japan, is on. So it's a worldwide audience. And it's just, you think about it. When we were kids, we could have never imagined having our own radio show.
It's our platform, and the thing is, I mean, I never expected to be anything goes. I mean, with no restrictions, we don't have to worry about at least shutting us down or losing a press pass. We're not going to ever do anything where we're going to do the facts and we're going to back it up. That's the difference. That's the difference. We're not going to say anything that's going to, that's going to have people go crazy. And if it is, that means they're listening. So I'm not complaining. But back to the World Bowl, I finish it up quickly. They had 43,789 fans there. That was really good for Montreal. That was the right decision.
They've never had, you think about it too. Just think about Montreal in that number. They've never had a bigger crowd since to see professional football in Montreal.
Yeah, and plus the game was fun because Eddie Brown. I think there's been a million Eddie Brown Rain Football there was, but Eddie Brown had a 2-yard touchdown reception. David Archer, 21-17. It was a fun game. I watched it. It was enjoyable. I'm
gonna have to go back and watch that game on YouTube.
And what you do, let me know what you think about that trophy. I love that little trophy. The thing is, I'd be afraid if I had it in my hands, I'd drop the damn thing. But
right. Well, my opinion with the World League is they shut it down way too soon.
You have at least 3 years. They 3 years.
Shut it down too soon. And with that said, they should have really focused the league because this was an experiment. They should have gone another year to learn some more lessons with logistics because now, I mean, they've already announced the international games for next year for the NFL. And I'm hoping at some point that we do get a European division with the NFL. Roger Goodell, they say it's going to happen. Now, again, we've been talking, with that said, we've also been talking about landing on the moon for the last, several years, and that got delayed yet again. But kind of with the NFL, it's like, okay, if this is going to happen, you guys really need to make it happen because there's just the global growth. American football is confined to North America. It's really not that big of a game in Canada, obviously. And in Canada, the NFL is a bigger league than the CFL. And that's a whole nother subject about how the CFL can market itself because they do a shitty job of marketing themselves. But here in Japan, we've got the dream, and this is what I want to kind of wrap up with, talking about the global growth of the game, which is why I'm glad we talked about the World League. So this coming weekend, actually tomorrow for me, on Sunday, it's called the Dream Japan Bowl. So what it is the X League All-Stars and the X League is a semi-pro league because most of the players work full-time jobs. They don't get paid but they pay dues. But your Americans on the team get paid. So it's kind of a hybrid. But it is, in terms of the quality of play, it's basically the third best league in the world. Now, people will debate that, and I'm going to leave that debate to my co-host at the Gridiron Japan podcast, John Gunning, who knows much more about the X League and the history of football in Japan than I do. But the X League is quality play, and we just had wrapped up the Rice Bowl God, it was a couple weeks ago now, where the Fujitsu Frontiers won their third title in a row. And the Frontiers and the Panasonic Impulse are the number 1 and 2 teams outside of North America. So we've got this weekend coming up. We've got the Dream Japan Bowl, which pits the X League All Stars versus a team of college All Stars from the Ivy League. And my personal opinion is, and this is just my opinion, and for anybody listening who listens to Gridiron Japan podcast and is living in Japan, listen, I want to see the Team Japan win more than anybody in the world. My buddy John and BJ over at the Gridiron Japan podcast do too. However, the gridiron game in Japan, as we learned last year, still has a long way to go when we had a team of all-stars last year play the Ivy League All-Stars, and they lost. This year going into the game, there's a lot of people that aren't from Japan that aren't playing in this all-star games, which I don't know. I don't want to make a prediction on the game, but I'm hopeful that Team Japan's going to do well. But there was a picture in the Japan Times of one of the players from the X League compared to the Ivy Leaguers. And again, I think, kind of comparing apples to oranges here, but just the size alone, I'm like, oh man, this might be, because size wise, the Americans still prevail. So hopefully Team Japan gives the Ivy League a good game. So with that said, talking about the international game, what the World League of American Football meant, do you think, Fran, that the NFL should just say screw it and let's make this game global? Because without the NFL, I don't see the American football expanding beyond North America.
Well, let's hypothetically say if there's a European division, isn't that going to kill having games in other markets around the world a little bit if they do that?
Well, I mean, you also have in each country, you got the German Football League, you got the British American Football League. Now, again, these are all basically club leagues.
All right. Well, since you're the expert of Europe, and they do a European division, let's say 4 teams. Pick the markets. Your call. Don't worry about travel. The NFL has money. Pick the markets that would be the best, most successful as far as from a talent standpoint, TVs, locals. This is your show now.
If I were to pick the markets, you go with
four markets. Yep,
4 markets. So you got London, Frankfurt, Berlin,
and don't tell me Barcelona. You can't tell me Barcelona.
No, I was going to say Barcelona. Probably. You know what? I would have to look at the attendance. It'd probably be one of the German cities.
Rhine again?
Could be, but you got to. I mean,
they love it in Germany, And come on,
yeah.
you remember when they had the Patriots here a year ago? That beer was like that beer is bigger than both of us combined.
Right, or you possibly put a second team in England, but with having 2 teams in London,
no, that's not good.
Well, but with that said, now keep in mind too, London is like a whole other country because London's just freaking huge. So I mean, you could have a team on one end of town and a team on the other end of town, and that would be a haul. So I don't know. That's a good question, but I think it really would be a league, a division composed of at least 1 English team. A team in Scotland, I think, would be for a team for future consideration. Edinburgh and Glasgow. I mean, they had the Scottish Claymores playing NFL Europe, but I don't know. I don't know how much.
Look at a league that's always been saying they're going to get 2 teams. NHL Toronto. Come on. You see Toronto get 2 NFL. I guess you see it because they've been clearing that for years, but they already have that AHL team. Toronto's not. NHL's not going to do that. And Canada?
Because
it makes no sense. How's that help the NHL grow?
No. But see, the thing is with the European over in Europe, they've got the stadiums at the ready because those soccer stadiums are much like and some of those soccer stadiums put AT&T Stadium, Jerry World to shame in terms of amenities. So stadium wise, I think the NFL is in a good spot. Stadium wise, I think the NFL is in a good spot in getting into Germany and London. But beyond that, who knows? I know. But without the NFL pushing it, the global American football is not going to grow. I mean, you've got the league in Mexico, you got the LFA, you've got the X League, but the X League is struggling. The X League is struggling to get fans. And this year's Rice Bowl, while it was for me, seeing a championship game in Japan on TV, there have been bigger crowds in the past. So for the game to grow, it's got to come from the NFL, because without the NFL pulling the train, it's going to be a struggle. So
even if there's no expansion anytime soon, I don't expect to ever see a Super Bowl overseas. The time differences would kill it. I can't say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're the expert.
You're right.
You pick a market outside of America that it can work time difference wise. I can't think of any.
There is
no, not in Canada, not in Mexico, where people get shot. No.
Look at I mean, we're not even comparing apples to oranges here, but let's take a look at the World Baseball Classic. Where is the championship of the World Baseball Classic held?
Always in Miami.
Always
Miami or LA. But I don't know where it is.
It's always in America.
Always in America.
Why is that? Because of TV. Because as we found out with the World Baseball Classic, other countries, Japan being one of them, actually being the primary example, it don't matter what time that game's on, you're going to get the Japanese tuning in. So when the World Baseball Classic Championship came on, and ironically for the championship game, I was watching it while doing a podcast with Dave when we were doing our experimental XFL InfoWars show. The ratings that came in from Japan for a game that kicked off, I forget what time it was in the morning, these were numbers that made the Super Bowl numbers look minuscule in terms of how many eyeballs were on the set. Basically everybody, unless they were working. And if they weren't working, if they were working but not near a TV, I guarantee you there was radio coverage of it, or they were watching it on their phones or what have you. But yeah, when it comes to logistics, when it comes to a Super Bowl in England, it's never going to happen.
How about another sports league? They're not going to do it because they have home markets. But is there any league out there that's going to not maybe Major League Soccer if they want more money? But I don't see anybody else wanting to experiment. Outside of America, a championship. I can't see it. Nope.
No, I can't see it at all. I can't see it. The NFL, they might do something to who knows? I mean, they might do. I don't know what they would do. Maybe the Pro Bowl. Send the Pro Bowlers over.
Well, at least people will care. I think in Orlando this year, but those games like Hawaii, that's ridiculous. That's just come on. That's come
Hawaii.
On.
The thing about Hawaii is, it's another place that you've got. Obviously, Hawaii's got stadium issues, but they're still playing football in Hawaii. So is the WAC still intact? The Western Athletic Conference.
Now Hawaii's part of the Mountain West. They have that changed stadium.
Okay.
Now they're in part of the Mountain West. So they're building a new stadium. So they're gonna. And Timmy Chang is the coach of that team now, who put up records in that run shoot offense. Where June Jones wanted the job, but June Jones was too old. So,
but the Hawaii program is another great example of how to learn about logistics. Because Hawaii's, there's an 8-hour time difference depending upon where you're at in the States between there and Hawaii. So yeah, I don't foresee in our lifetime the Super Bowl ever being played outside the United States. And that's kind of bringing it really around to full circle, talking about what we started to at the very top of this podcast when we talked about Sports Illustrated and about the impact it had. And for me, the big impact about Sports Illustrated that still affects me now, some 40 years, God, man, we're going on 50 years. Well, yeah, going 50 years. Yeah, going on 50 years was the Sports Illustrated article. And the Sports Illustrated article back in 1979, the Pro Football Preview issue with Earl Campbell on the cover, and talked about the future of football. And so to me, we're losing, when I woke up this morning and Dave and you knew sent me the messages while I was sleeping about SI. But when I saw that, it's like, oh man, and I think of all the memories of Sports Illustrated as a kid, going to the library, looking at the swimsuit issue, Cheryl T,
the big moments. I mean, like
the
Doug
big
Flutie.
moments.
Yeah. Did you watch that Miami Boston College game?
Doug
Flutie, I watched it. I loved it.
I didn't watch it. And here's why. Because I worked as a kid at Kmart. So I think I was working that night it was on, but I worked in the TV section, but I don't think I ended up watching.
Well, the fun thing about that was I watched that game and I knew Doug Flutie was going to win. I'm like, play silent. I had that feeling like I love Boston College. Doug Flutie was one of my favorite quarterbacks. And I'm like, I said, keep playing sideline. You have time. I mean, that's one thing about when you get to see moments. It doesn't. If you watch it later, it doesn't. When you get to watch it live, it's unbelievable to see moments like that. I mean, and then like years later, I run Doug Flutie at the UFL Championship in Omaha. I get to talk to him, I talked about CFL. Just the fact that it went all full circle, where I was able to. One of my favorite players, and I finally get to meet him, and I was humble. I wasn't one of these bloggers that would have been, going crazy with him. So.
Yeah, you'd be like, you wouldn't be.
Oh, look at him! Oh my God, Doug! Can you give me your autograph?
No.
I mean, you know how they get. I guarantee you, what's going to happen at these UFO championship, you're going to have one of these kids that this is his first chance. He's going to be deer at headlights, and he's going to do stupid things that the league's going to notice. I guarantee you that.
Like I write for USFL News Spoke.
No one cares.
Nobody cares.
I mean, when I was at the Expo Championship, I was professional. I handled myself properly. I told them. I covered all 3 leagues, and they were so impressed by that. And I did the media opportunities, and the thing was, unlike some of the other people, I was down there a day before to make sure I could get to media day. I mean, and it helped me. I mean, just getting. I was running the show. It was basically my platform to walk and do my thing. It was a little disorganized, but I was able to get more accomplished being down there at media day than other people that came down a day later for just the championship. So,
well, hopefully with sports journalism moving forward, I mean, obviously, Sports Illustrated currently, as we know it, is going away. The archives, are going to remain intact somewhere. Somebody's going to pay for that because that's history. But when it comes to sports journalism, for those who are listening, if you want to learn about what's going on in the world of sports, alternative sports, minor league sports, go to oursportscentral.com and visit and link onto Fran's articles. And to me, that's the go-to place for news. That's what's going on in the world of sports, beyond the major leagues. Beyond
I'm humbled. Like the week around the leagues is a nice platform to get everything.
Because what you're around the leagues is where, if you want to learn about what's going on the minor league scene, that's the place. That's your first stop. And any other place is you're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna go to our Sports Central.
And plus,
I get the real news.
I'll give you just, if you like what I have to say and you like my writing, here's a little extra reward for you. Everything I write is archived, so you can go year by year, and if something appeals to you, click on it, because I guarantee you're gonna get information, entertainment. You're gonna get things you're really gonna enjoy. So if you like my writing, you can go to 2001. Our Sports Central, and you'll see an interview with Jeff Brom. My first XL preview. That was the best preview anyone wrote on any platform. So the thing is, I don't write for a big name site, but I treat it like it's a holy grail. I treat it like it's the the most important site on the planet, and that's why Paul. Paul's like one of my best friends. I mean, it's nothing better than to have a site you contribute for. That's one of your best friends, and if I can help him succeed, I'm happy to do that. Like if I do stuff that gives him site more traffic and gives the site more credibility, I'm happy to do that. That's the absolute part. Paul getting me on that platform gave me so many great things. So I'm happy just to, I'm looking. And what do you like the news articles that we put up on the site sometimes, or do you like the press releases?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I spend a lot of mornings or whenever I have free time putting up articles. To give people more stories, especially like at Major League Rugby. If you go to that rugby section, I put about 8 stories, say, on that Charlotte team, so you get everything. So you get the whole entire gist on that. So if you're curious about Major League Rugby, go to the Charlotte page and you'll see the whole entire gist on that team coming out of nowhere. It probably was in the plans, but unless the checks come clear, it's not going to happen. So
right. And for anybody who's looking to connect with From the 55 Yard Line podcast, really the best and only way right now is to go to our Twitter, because we're still on Twitter. We're not leaving Twitter. because I find it the best. Actually, I find Twitter, and I know, this is another discussion, but I find Twitter for me the one place we can go as a show and not be censored. Because if you go to Reddit or you go on Reddit, that place is just, you know, I've posted stuff on there. I've gotten banned. Oh no, we don't talk about that. It's no, you know what? Nobody censors opinions on Twitter, which I guess is a good thing.
Well,
But in the world of sports, it's a good thing because, um, I kind of like my memes and I kind of troll a little bit on my other Twitter accounts, so I kind of like it. But if you're looking to connect with us at the podcast, whether you like the show, hate the show, what have you, we are at From the 55 on X, formerly known as Twitter, and just direct message. I'm in charge of all the social media account of the social media account. I'm also social media director at Gridiron Japan podcast. But when it comes to From the 55, hey, shoot me a message.
and as far as I'm concerned, I mean, give us comments. I mean, what do you like the show? Do you like the all this?
Right.
Anything goes. Do you like what we're doing? If we offend one of your friends, by all means, tell them they can listen to it and they can hear it. So,
it's
I
funny,
had nothing to hide.
Funny you should mention that. You know what? If people are writing you hate mail, you at least know one thing: people are listening.
And I guarantee you, if the guy I mentioned about the false rumor, if that starts spreading wildfire, I mean, it's the truth, and I can back it up. And the thing is, I'm not going to say anything without valid proof. I can go on Facebook and prove that within seconds.
Well,
I can go to a Facebook page and show the exact. So if God forbid this happens, and we expose the truth. Oh no! This guy may want to kill me at the championship. Why? Because I told the truth.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about the internet. It never forgets, because as we found out, just recently with a certain news article on UFL SI, what is it, that fan part of it where you get apparently these people that are writing for the UFL, at least I'm guessing they don't get paid, because if they did get paid, they got laid off today.
Well, sometimes they feel like the bigger the name, I mean, the more prestige. We don't know, but then again, maybe they'll message us and tell us we got paid. I don't know. By all means, if you're getting paid, you're doing something better than a lot of people are doing. So God bless you.
True. And you know what? Bottom line is, hey, listen, if you're going to write something and criticize other writers for you doing exactly the same thing that these writers you're accusing of, then you shouldn't be putting that in writing, because, at some point the internet, you put that out there, I guarantee you there is somebody out there on social media
taping
who the internet never forgets. And if you've said stuff on video, that's going to come back to haunt you. And just for future reference, please don't do that anymore.
Well, how about this, guys? If we get at least one person that listens to the show and enjoys it, you guys send us a message and give us a topic you want us to discuss: a movie or a sport, anything. And guess what? We'll talk about it because we know it, and we won't have to research it because we probably already lived the damn thing. So if one person just says, "Hey, we want to talk about this," anything goes. We'll talk about curling if we have to, because anything. Come on. So if you want to talk about, if you want to give a topic, hey man, it's almost like that. When you go to a comedy club where they have that, open comedy roulette, where hey, you give a topic and they have to talk about it. By all means, give it to us, and we'll back it up with facts. And if we offend somebody, we're right.
Yeah. I kind of looked at it. If we generate controversy and somebody's like, "Oh, I don't agree with what you're saying," well, at least you're listening.
Well, I mean, and the sad thing is we're right. So, I mean,
and if we're wrong, we'll admit we're wrong on the next show.
And unlike on the Facebook and Twitter scene, did any of these bloggers ever point out that they were wrong? I mean, in the newspaper, you have to remember, rebuttal.
It's funny you should mention it, because before we wrap things up, good funny story. So last year, Dave and I did this XFL InfoWars show, and I was just talking about, over the air TV is dead and yada yada. Well, you know what? I went back after the show and did my research, and I'm like, holy shit, I was wrong. I was way wrong. So the next show we did, I'm like, dude, I misspoke. So we're not above, correcting ourselves when need be. But hey, if you're going to rip on us too, just remember, present us with facts, just not, hey, you're wrong. Because that's what happened with the XFL. And I know, and this is just, when I was talking about XFL, I was critiquing the XFL on social media. Oh, but you're wrong. They didn't do this. I'm like, dude, what bubble are you living in? And people like, oh, but you're wrong. I'm like, yeah, okay, you need to give me, show me where I'm wrong. And that's the problem with social media, unfortunately. And I think, it's just the nature of the internet too, not just with football, Twitter,
and the thing is,
but with everything else.
The thing is, if we're wrong, just tell us. And the other problem is with these, it's just I mean, just be honest. I mean, we'll have an open discussion. We'll have you on the show and we'll debate it. If you want to tell us that, hey, if James Larson wants to come on the show, by all means, come on the show and tell us that what you did was just an oopsie. I don't care about calling him out because that's embarrassing. That hurt me so much. This is a league where fans are begging for information, and you give it out the wrong information. Come on. I mean, I'll bear if I see this guy at the championship, I'm going to tell him, you embarrass yourself. You humiliate yourself. Come on. I mean, get it right. I'm not going to forget. And if I see, and nobody else is going to forget. And if this guy says anything else with wrong facts, I'm going to nail him. I'm past it. I'm like, this is a time where come on. This is a privilege. This is a privilege to be covering sports. I mean, and be thankful you have a platform for it. The thing is, Paul would kill me if I ever did a room like that and it was wrong. First of all, it wasn't right. Second of all, anything I post is facts. I mean, if I get a story, I'm gonna get sources. And if I break something like I did years ago, remember that UFL that formed? I broke the story on UFL Access, which I was involved with, and Northwest Central, that Jim Fossil was going to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Locomotives. And I was right, and other media outlets tried to chime in on it, but they finally gave us some credit. And then within a couple of days later, Jim Fossil's name was mentioned on all the media outlets on ESPN because that's a big news. Giants coach, league, and I didn't get the credit I deserve, but I broke the story. So, and I'm not one of those media guys that does that. I just write. I've never. That's probably the only story I've broken in my entire life. So
yeah,
I'll take that one story because it's the right story and it was right. I'd rather do one right story than 20, 30 stories that have to be wrong. So go back to journalism school if you went to journalism school. I'm sorry.
Well, and hopefully these younger guys who are writing for the league. I mean, I'm confident. I mean, I know Jim, and I've always had great dealings with Jim. So hopefully, the thing is, you're never too old to learn lessons. So hopefully moving forward, now that the league, the UFL, now we know what we have with the UFL. I mean, there's a lot of questions still outstanding, but at least the rumors that were batted around there, everything's now fact. We have what we have in terms of we know what we know moving forward.
The only thing we don't know, right, which we might be able to discuss next week's show, is the schedule, hopefully, and then the rules differences. We still don't know.
But here's the thing with the schedule, and this is where people
unless you're in the home market, you don't give a shit.
Well, bottom line is when the schedule is announced for whether it be the NFL, I'll use the CFL as a good example.
Yeah.
Okay. The schedule release. You're going to play the same damn 8 teams every year. With the NFL, it's different. You got more teams. You got only 17 games. So I get the excitement, but the schedule's been going to be released. Okay, well, you're playing 8 teams are playing each other. We kind of know the schedule. Just a question of when the dates. I don't get really too worked up. I don't get too excited.
With the NFL, you get excited because you want to know what the first game is. Everyone loves to know what games are on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Everybody likes to know. Now we have a Black Friday game, and plus people like the Thursday night schedule. Right. They like to know that. Plus they like to know some of the Sunday night games early season. Plus the overseas games, which are another factor. Plus you get to see there's
a lot more to it. Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, I'd be excited to know what teams, especially the teams that are going to be in the schedule, but you don't know. Right. And depending on how the schedule is set up, you can win or lose season. It depends on if you have a schedule set up the right way, you can win more than you can lose. Honestly.
Yeah.
So
well, and so what I was saying, going, moving forward with, talking about all the different news sites covering the UFL. I still have a hard time. Just UFL just does not roll off the tongue like USFL did, and even XFL. But with the new sprint, what was the league this year, the combined league? Hopefully now that, because there was just so much rumor kicked out there about, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, okay, what happened has happened. I think where you're going to see speculation kick in is if the ratings completely tank and there is no growth, you're seeing empty seats, you're going to see speculation as to the way forward, though I don't expect that to happen till the very earliest mid-season.
And I guarantee you, Greg, there's going to be this expansion stuff talking by these
Oh
stupid
God.
bloggers.
Oh God.
Every week it's going to be expansion. And then the other thing is, let's be honest, this league, you have to get it right. So
Yeah.
by all means,
I agree with you.
I'll be honest with you. You do your study, you look into it, and if you figure out it's better to start earlier in February, deal with March Madness. Who cares? Think about the long-term vision. Think about cold weather. Think about people being inside in the north watching games. And then when the weather gets nice, I'm going outside.
Right. That's what kills me with
it's a mistake. 2 months now
with the spring league. Oh, they could do this. It's like, yeah, dude. It's
March 30th.
March 30th.
You know what I'm doing at Super Bowl? I'm binge watching TV shows. I'm not.
Right.
2 months of what? College basketball? This is the perfect time to have these games. Even Paul said that. I mean, the weather's freezing cold in Wisconsin. There's nothing else to do in February and March. But now you're going to start late in season. And then in June, I guarantee you, as the weather gets nice, the ratings are going to be a joke. At night, Saturday night, people are going to be out with their families. And it's going to impact that as well. So I disagree with that. I mean, I think starting February, I mean, are you, and the thing is, the other thing you have to keep in factor is attendance. You got to have attendance. I mean, sacrifice TV ratings for attendance. The more attendance you have, the better chance of lasting. And also the missing piece of this league is hopefully by year 3, which is make or break, you have to have NFL teams send teams there. You get that, you're going to last. If not, if the NFL doesn't have any involvement, then you're screwed. Let's be honest. It's not going to it's going to die.
Yeah. I mean, it's bottom line is money talks. And if they're losing money, I mean, you were talking about the World League of American Football, and you look at the amount of money that was lost during that league. That was a drop in the bucket. Actually, the NFL could afford losing that amount of money and not even bat an eye. I mean, today. But bottom line is, this is pro sports is a business, and until somebody explains to me, and nobody has been able to explain it to me, what this league's 5-year plan is besides hope, I don't have much hope. So I'm going to enjoy it for what it is, and we go from there. So
I mean, I'm enjoying it, but the thing is, it's to a point where I'm involved with so many sports leagues and teams. I tell people if it works, I'll have fun, enjoy it. If it doesn't, I have so many other things to do. And now I have a podcast where I can talk about anything I want. So this is cool. Right. So like I say, Greg, absolute pleasure working with you. And like I say, I know it's a long show, guys, but believe me, it's not boring. That's the one thing. Well, long shows are boring, but this show goes off everywhere.
Well, hopefully next week, Dave's completely is shoveled out, and we'll be hearing more from Dave. I'm sure you and I will be talking to him here shortly in terms of, if he whether or not he has dug a tunnel from his front door to his driveway. I'm assuming if he has, he's not the only one, because we got NFL playoffs going on in Buffalo this weekend, and we got 4 games.
But
we got 4 games.
I'll be honest. We all add 3 different dimensions to the show. I mean, you add the dimension where you have a lot more. You know a lot more of the history of the stuff. With your age. Pardon my.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. I'm proud to be
the old man. You're a little bit older, but you watched it. I mean, you actually know it. And then me, I'm the Rain Man of sports knowledge, and my memory is off the hook. Where I know so many different things, and then what David has to show is that he works in these sports leagues, so he has the team dimension, the behind the scenes dimension. That so you put all those forces together, where we don't mind saying whatever we want. You get a fun show.
Yeah. Well, listen, hey, I appreciate it, Fran, and talking, and we're going to talk more on the flip side here. But for everybody listening, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you're looking for the show online, we are again at From the 55 over on X, formerly known as Twitter, and our website is fromthe55yardline.ca, not .com, but .ca as in Canada. And that's where you can find the show on the Sports History Network. And we're also on Gridiron America Radio and anywhere you can find podcasts. So just look up From the 55 Yard Line on your favorite podcast player or in Google or whatever. That'll point you where you need to go. So on behalf of Fran, Dave, and myself, Dave, I know you're listening, so hopefully you're drinking some hot chocolate now as you're listening to this after probably shoveling it again. Hey, thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Look out, football, here we come. Houston Oilers, number 1. Houston has the Oilers, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, always in control. And when you say the Oilers, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. Yes, we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. We got the offense, we got the defense. We give the other team no hope, 'cause we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. You know we're gonna hold the rope. Yes, we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. Yes, we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. 'Cause we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. 5, 7, 8. We're the best from the Lone Star State. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. 'Cause we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers, number 1. Yes, we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.